Hello and welcome inside a semi-state preview edition of the Scores Table. My name is Brian Haenchen, joined by Danny Riego. Courtney Delks will be along with us here shortly. We have a loaded show coming in for semi-state. This is the 3A, 4A episode. So if you're looking for 2A and A preview, I would guide you to the link to that episode, which I'll have in the description. For here on the 4A, 3A show, we're going to be joined by Lillie Graves of McCutcheon, Bloomington South assistant coach Torin Whitehead, Madeline, Shirley, Avery, Kelley from Evansville Central, Cade, Hampton from the Star Press on Delta, Addi, Baxter from Columbia City, Eric Thornton and Vanessa Rosswurm from Norwell, Lisa Finn from Cathedral, Stephen Thomas and Jamaya Thomas from Lawrence North. And if there's any time left, we'll let Danny talk about what he's seen. It's a pretty good list, if I do say so myself.
It's pretty good, man. Congratulations. You've obviously been working the last 48 hours. But you have to have a show like that because, and I don't know about you, but the 4-team semi-state has kind of grown on me. And the reason why is because I think we're going to get to see, I mean, you had mentioned a lot of the names that were going to be on the show, but like Maya Makalewski is going to be in action. Maddy Shirley's going to be in action. Addi Baxter, Lillie Graves, the Warsaw, whatever you want to call them, Killer Bees, Winchester, Brooke and Bricker, Gabby Spink. And then you're also going to be introduced to kids that I think will be the household names. Like you're going to get to see like Julia Lashley at Bloomington South this weekend. Elliot Leffler at Roncalli will be out there. Claire Larison you'll love at Greensburg. Vanessa Rosswurm. Like it's just off the top of my head. If you have 8 teams in every class still alive, the amount of kids that you get to see play on the third weekend is a real treat for all of us fans. So I, for one, love it.
Oh, it's an awesome slate. My one wish is that it wasn't doubleheaders. I wish that it was like a Friday-Saturday split. And, logistically that makes sense because the point that Kyle brings up too with this is just like the kids who win that first game don't get a ton of time to celebrate and enjoy that win before they have to go and turn around. And then two, I mean, as we discussed last year with Sherry Dowden was a talking point. I mean, it takes so much to get through that first game. And it sets up for it kind of waters down the championship game to an extent. And we're going to see that a lot this year where there's a ton of really good games in the morning session. And then the night, it's just like who's going to have enough legs left at the end. And I understand that that's a fun part of it, especially here in Indiana. But I think looking at it more realistically and objectively, it'd be nice to have more of a best on best situation where kids have a chance to recover and they get the chance to scout. And I think that would improve the quality of the games. But regardless, like Danny said, I mean, just a phenomenal weekend. So much star power coming in. And I mean, really, it seems like there's some clear favorites, but at the same time, nobody really feels safe. Like there's no team except for maybe South Knox. Apologies to them for the increasing of the target. That it's like, oh yeah, they're probably through for sure. I mean, everything feels like a crapshoot. Even the 3A final, like Cathedral-Roncalli are really hot right now, coming in. Like who knows what happens there in that championship game because Greensburg and Evansville Central have to duke it out in the second game. So it's gonna be a fun day of ball, man.
All good points. And from our perspective, too, from a coverage perspective, like just we'll take the Frankfurt one, for example, right? I mean, we won't be breaking down this week IHSAA versus Warsaw, which is what the chalk and the computers would suggest we're going to get at 8 o'clock at Case Arena. But we will be talking about Warsaw versus McCutcheon and IHSAA versus Valpo. And no, Hank, I'm not going live between the games. But and we'll have to intermix it. But from our perspective, we'll just have to talk about each individual kind of, I mean, obviously with South Knox week, there's certain things that you maybe can be safe projecting, but these teams are all here for a reason. So I think we'll focus mainly on the morning games.
It'll be really fun. Since we have Lillie Graves coming on here in just a minute, Danny, let's talk about that matchup with them and Warsaw. Warsaw coming in 24-1, McCutcheon 24-3. The computers have that as a 62-45 Warsaw victory. I don't know. I know that the numbers are what they are, but that feels like a game that's going to be a lot closer than that. Yeah,
McCutcheon guards you, and that's the one thing that Warsaw. That Warsaw needs to be careful of. Obviously there's going to be certain metrics that Jeff Canoy at McCutcheon wants in regards to how many points he wants to allow. McCutcheon held Snyder to 41 points. I think 40 was kind of the number he wanted to play that game in the low 40s and got there. So if there is going to be a defensive plan that he can put in place against Warsaw, that would be maybe something to watch. But, kind of leading into that game, and we'll talk on the back half of the Lillie Graves interview, I'm fascinated as to what that defense is, right? Because against Snyder, it was that sagging 2-3. that's not what Jeff's going to run against Warsaw. If it is, I would presume that Warsaw will shoot them out of that sagging 2-3 relatively early in the game, and he's going to switch. We had that kind of joking exchange at half court of the game when they were cutting the nets down after the regional that we discussed on the last episode about how he had every intention of switching defenses. Warsaw is a team that can get comfortable when you guard them one way. Mm-hmm. Like Northridge, for example, I talk a lot about that game because they play twice and there's just a lot of conclusion. I know there's a lot of familiarity between Doug Springer and Lenny Krebs, but in that game, I think Warsaw just got comfortable with what they were going to do. And I think they got comfortable with what they were going to do against South Bend, Washington. I think McCutcheon and Jeff Conoy are going to work really hard to make sure that they don't get comfortable in anything. So I think you're going to see Jeff's change defenses when things actually might be going pretty well for them.
Yeah. Hey, Courtney.
Hey, Court.
Slipped her in covertly. I know Courtney's fired up for this weekend. We were texting about it yesterday. All of us are very fired up. And Danny, you make a really good point there about the defenses too. Like I'm fascinated to see how that chess match works out. You were there for McCutcheon versus Snyder. How did McCutcheon grind that one out? Like it seemed like kind of a grinder game, but then Lillie took over down the stretch a little bit, right?
Yeah, it was. Again, Lillie made enough plays, and that's gonna be what everybody wants to see, deserves to see. She's just made plays for that basketball team all year. But the key to the game is always going to, with McCutcheon, is always going to be where's the role play production going to come from, Hank? We mentioned how Riley Wetz and Chloe Finney, those two kids particularly, played huge basketball games on the offensive and defensive side. I talked about the couple of baskets that Riley Wetz had. Riley Wetz also got an offensive rebound on a free throw, like a missed free throw. And that led to another point. I actually believe that was the offensive rebound that led to the free throws that Lily Graves hit that made it a 2-possession game and took the outcome and swung it in McCutcheon's favor for good. But these kids are going to make plays. I've seen Lipscomb Allen on that team have 25 in a game, lead them in scoring. We talked about Finney and Wetz. So that role player production for McCutcheon is going to come somewhere. But, this is it. Lillie gets to do this on a big stage. I'm very excited for her.
It's a perfect lead-in as we bring in our first guest of the day. That is Lillie Graves of McCutcheon, sophomore, having a great season. Lillie, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. Congratulations on the sectional and the regional championship. Has it sank in that you're still playing ball this point of the year?
Yeah, it feels great. It's super exciting for sure, especially after last year. So really excited to still be playing.
That's awesome. So I'll start broadly. I saw you at the beginning of the season. I guess just how has this team developed? How has your game grown since, the season opener against Plainfield?
Yeah, I think we've definitely been able to grow a lot. I think our chemistry has only continued to grow and kind of get better, which is expected, as the season goes on. But I think we've really been able to get closer as a team on and off the court, which I think has been great. And then for me personally, I think kind of my leadership on the court has definitely took a leap this year, kind of getting into the upperclassmen roles. So I think that's definitely something that's improved in my game as well on the court.
Is that something that comes naturally for you, stepping into being more of an upperclassman as a second-year kid, being that vocal leader and all that?
Yeah, it definitely has kind of just found me this year. Even though I am a little bit more shy, definitely had to open up, especially to everyone else on the court.
So I want to hear your thoughts just on that Snyder game. It was a bit of a grind there early, but then you guys were able to pull away. Wait, what did you make of that game and the team's performance?
Yeah, I think we knew it was going to be kind of a closer game. We had a close game with them in the regular season as well. But I think honestly it was just a good game, and I was just excited to play back on the regional stage again. It's always just a fun experience in the postseason, which I think is just really exciting.
Lillie, I'm digging the confetti or streamers in the background. You picked the perfect spot to post up at, and the poster with creativity and balls, purposeful. It's awesome. My question for you, because you and I both know that you can be a great basketball player, but it takes players around you to make runs in a tournament. And I think that's a big difference in your guys' team this year is you're getting a lot of production from your teammates. So can you just talk about your teammates, Wetz, Finney, Lipscomb, Allen, those three kind of come to mind to me, and just talk about how much your teammates are part of this journey that you guys are on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of seem to look at me, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to, have the production that I have without their support and their production as well on the court. And I think our depth this year is just something that I'm super happy to have. Last year, I feel like the defense kind of paid a lot more attention to me, but this year I feel like they have to, take a few steps off me because like we have so much more production from other people on the court. And even like off like rebounding too for Kalea, like she got 17 rebounds in one of our sectional games. Like that's crazy to me. So I think it's kind of just everyone contributing, which I think is super good. And I think that's a huge part of our success this year.
Absolutely. Coach Kanoy has switched defense up a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I feel like playing for him, that's kind of all he's done. He always switches up defenses. But I think that's with the roster this year, something we're able to do as well a lot, kind of just adjust, and we can play a lot of different defense with our versatility as well.
Is that a new wrinkle that Jeff's been implementing this year, kind of mixing up defense, or is he like more aggressive with it, I guess, than he was your freshman year?
Yeah, I would say we're definitely more aggressive. I mean, last year I don't even think we played any man defense at all. So I think this year we've at least been able to get out of the zone at some point. And I think our 13 defense as well, that little 1-3-1, like we kind of just switch it up, kind of just depending on who we're playing. And I think in the Snyder game too, like we were all expecting to switch defenses, and then we never did, which was really surprising for us, especially from him as well.
How have you adjusted to that? Like, is that kind of in your wheelhouse, playing those different styles, playing a little bit of man and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of been an adjustment, playing a lot of zone. But I feel like kind of as the season went on, I was able to get more used to it.
Lillie, I saw a little bit of the Snyder game, and during that game, there was a point where Snyder kind of was picking up from a pack line like 15 foot, and you hit your first three of that game. How important was that for you as a player to hit that three?
I would say it meant a lot. Just to get out and even hit any type of jump shot right now means a lot to me. Kind of reminds me of to get my confidence back. Because I feel like my shot has definitely been something that like a lot of people know I've had struggles with in the past. So to get out in that big game and kind of hit that shot really got like my momentum going, and kind of just got me in an attack mode as well.
Lillie, looking ahead to Warsaw now, just what have you seen from them on film in the scout so far?
Yeah, I think they're a great team. Obviously, we know we're going to have to play good defense, kind of keep them off the line a little bit as well. But, I mean, we still have a lot more to do on the scout, so.
Are you guys kind of relishing the opportunity to be more of an underdog in this one after being sectional favorites, after being favored over Snyder, now getting to go back to being kind of the underdog here?
Yeah, I think it's always fun to be the underdog because I feel like, it gives us motivation to want to just prove people wrong. So I think it's honestly just motivation. So I'm super happy to kind of be back to that underdog position.
Is that something that you guys talk about during practice? Like, do you pull up like the computer rankings and then whatever people pick against you and just kind of stick it on the cork board for everybody to see?
We don't necessarily do it as like a team, but I feel like me personally, like my motivation. So I always have that in the back of my head, kind of just wanting to prove people wrong. Everyone who doubts me as an individual and our team. It's honestly just motivation for me and helps me, want to play better.
Lillie, how's it going?
It's good.
I'll ask one question. I just want to talk about you in the third weekend. It's I don't know if you felt pressure, right? You won the sectional last year. You win the sectional this year. You were at Marion last year, and you got beat by a really, really good Homestead basketball team. So you're heading into the Snyder game. You get to go to practice on Monday after because you're preparing for the third weekend. Just talk just top level about what it means for you to represent McCutcheon in the semi-state, for you personally to get there, for you to kind of lead a team. Just talk about that, and we'll get you out on that.
Yeah, I would say it just feels great, to be honest. It's been a few years since, probably more than a few years since McCutcheon's been able to do this. So I'm super excited. And then personally, I'm just excited to be able to play on a bigger stage, bigger than regionals, up to the next step. Really was happy, to be back again at practice this week. So really excited for that and to spend another week with my team as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Lillie, thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck to you this weekend, and hopefully we'll be seeing you Saturday night.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Take care.
You too.
All right, that was Lillie Graves, sophomore standout at McCutcheon. Courtney, why don't you give us your parting thoughts before we move on to Bloomington South?
For Lillie Graves, first of all, I'm super happy for Lillie. As you guys can see in the interview, she's a shy kid, but she's really starting to come out. Like the amount of that she just talked in that interview is huge. And just her, I think it's a coming out party for her this upcoming weekend, playing on this big stage. And I always like to say that when you play against the best competition, it brings out the best in the dogs, right? I think Lillie Graves is a dog. Like, she's a great basketball player. So I'm really excited to see her and her teammates and what they can do this weekend against a very, very good Warsaw team.
Yeah, and when people talk about coming out party, it isn't because her game has graduated to it. It's because her game now gets to play in front of more eyeballs. Mm-hmm. Like Warsaw is going to, and it's not the number of people that they'll bring, but just the big markets, if you will. Like, so she gets to play now in the same semi-state as Valpo and Lily Barnes, and HSE with Maya Makaluski, and Warsaw with that run with Josh Bricker and Zartman and Winchester and all of that. And she gets to throw herself into the mix. There will be a lot of people that will see Lillie Graves play live for the first time on Saturday, which is crazy because she's been undeniably one of the best underclassmen in the state. So I think it's a really cool storyline to kind of see at semi-state. You see this all the time where people will introduce themselves to somebody's game and then enjoy watching her and follow the rest of her career.
Terrific stuff. Well, guys, we're going to go from the north to the south now. Courtney, we get to stay in the same studio, which is a nice change from last week when I sent Danny to like 4 different places and Soakland to the wrong one. We're going to go ahead and bring on Torin Whitehead, assistant coach at Bloomington South, and Rebekah Arnold, a junior forward, for Bloomington South and the Panthers as they prepare to take on Pike. Torin and Rebekah, how are you guys doing?
Good. Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us. Bloomington South, by the way, getting ready to play Pike. Bloomington South comes in 23-2, Pike 19-6. So I'll just start big picture with you guys. What are you thinking of the matchup coming up on Saturday?
Well, we're super excited. Obviously, Pike's a really talented team. We got to play them a couple of times this summer. Not well. We did not play well, but we feel like we have improved tremendously, as I'm sure they feel they have as well. So we're just excited. We're excited to be able to, play some indie teams and be a semi-state and just be in the moment, I think.
Yeah, we're just really excited for this opportunity. It's a team we've seen before, so we're really ready to play them.
Rebekah, Coach talked about just how this team's grown. How have you grown? What have you seen from this team in terms of development?
Honestly, I think our team, we've been like this the whole time. Right now, we're just finding our moment. We're finding a nice rhythm that works for our team, and we're just all coming together in a really good way right now.
I think I agree. Yeah, they've the core of them, the juniors, have played together since they were like,
I think it's been like 8 years.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
So for them to have this moment is really exciting. We're super proud of them, and then obviously we add in. You can't talk about the juniors without adding in our couple freshmen and a couple of sophomores. It's hard with our team, I think, to talk about one and not talk about all the other pieces, because it's like a giant puzzle that we feel like we're piecing together.
Well, okay. So let me ask about one, though. You said you didn't want to do it. I will ask about one, Coach, okay? We just talked about how, like, Lillie Graves almost gets to introduce herself or to a lot of eyes for the first time. I know you don't want to talk about one, and it will parlay into a conversation about how she's a part of a collective group. But Julia Lashley is another one of those kids now that gets to introduce herself to the rest of the girls' basketball eyes. She's fantastic, okay? But I don't know that a lot of people that follow Indiana girls basketball in the state might not have been introduced to her. So take it from there, take it wherever you want. Tell us whatever you want about Julia Lashley, but she has to be a central piece of that group of 8, I would suspect. Right, Coach?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Julia is most certainly like a cornerstone. She is a tremendous player. Obviously, we agree with you. She has just her game at all phases. It has grown tremendously, but also it's been there the whole time too. I mean, she can score under the basket. She can shoot. She's shooting really well from outside right now. She's a tremendous defender. She can handle the ball. She can just do a little bit of everything. And more than that, she is a really great leader for us. I mean, it's like having a coach on the floor out there. You know, she knows what is expected of everyone all the time, and is vocal in that too. She's willing to kind of let everybody get everybody's ducks in a row, if you will.
She's really, really dependable as a player, I'd say.
Yeah.
And parlay that into Hall. You know, she does some really good things. And when the stream is turned on, or people walk into the site and see, you'll obviously see that there's that her journey is significantly unique as well. So talk about her and introduce the audience to her as well.
Yeah. Violet and Violet and Julia have played together forever, along with several of the other girls, but Violet is a tremendous athlete. And I think she would want that to be the first thing that you notice about her. She has one arm. She was born that way. And so in her journey as a basketball player, she has developed some extremely unique skills to be able to take care of the ball, rebound to the ball, shoot the ball, defend the way that she does. She is, like I said, just a really great athlete, but also another leader. I mean, she's playing probably second most in minutes on the team. Like, she's just someone that we have to have on the floor as a leader, but then also she kind of anchors our defense in the back and protects the basket, helps when people get beat. I mean, just does all of the little things back there. But again, like I said, big picture, like when she steps on the floor, she is not asking for, I mean, she's out there to be a competitor. Yeah. I mean, like I said, she would want you to just notice her and see her as an athlete and a basketball player. But I mean, tremendous spirit, great athlete and person. And I can't say enough good things about Violet or Julia, or really any of them. I could go on all day about all of them.
Yeah, and the audience, you guys won't be able to take your eyes off Violet when you watch. I mean, it is super unique and it's super great. Let me kind of parlay the conversation into Larry Winters, okay? And just a little bit of a history lesson to everybody. So regionals, you guys go down to Bedford, and it's ironic that that's the regional site, because now you win on Damon Bailey Court and you get to the third weekend. But Bedford has been in your way, if you will, and Coach Winters' way for a while, with all of the talent that they had, and going all the way back to kids like Alexa Bailey and the Allen sisters, and of course, most recently, Chloe Spreen and Carson Norman and those kids. This has to mean a ton to Larry to get to the third weekend, to get through Damon Bailey Court. I know he's not able to be on today to talk about this, but talk for him. This has, I mean, he's a veteran of what, 25, 26 years. And for him to be in the third weekend with a group that had expectations that are being met right now has to mean a lot to him. So talk about Coach Winters.
Yeah, gladly. He has been there for 26 years. I was thinking, I've been with him for 13 as a coach, and then I played for him not 4 years, but 4 years prior to that, with college in between. So everyone around him is super happy, obviously, for him to get this opportunity. But he will tell you too, though, like the game of basketball the game itself has meant so much to him as a person and a player. And he has done this for this long to give back to the game and to try and impact as many girls as he can. Obviously winning is fantastic. I mean, he has 300 some wins and all of that. That is great. But he also now gets to, go to semistate and take a group that he really enjoys being with. And he just, I think in my opinion, I'm biased, but in my opinion, he embodies everything that's good about coaching high school basketball. I mean, it's about the kids, and yeah, it was great to be able to cut down nets at Bedford for everybody. But more importantly, it's great to be playing on the third weekend and just to be able to keep winning.
Rebekah, what's he like to play for? Like now that you're in it now, what's Larry like as a coach?
He's definitely he's just such a knowledgeable coach. He's a step ahead of you. He knows like what you're gonna need before you need it, if that makes sense. He's really like helpful. He's just such a knowledgeable person about basketball, about life. He's amazing.
I've been looking over your guys' stats, watched you guys a little bit, and you guys are averaging 59 points. You guys are holding teams at 34. What would you say the culture of Bloomington South basketball is? Is it focused on D? Is it focused on O? Is it focused on something not to do with basketball? Like, what's the culture like at Bloomington South?
Let's see if Rebekah gets it right.
We're definitely focused on defense.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Yes. We are defense first. I mean, we that's how you get on the court. If you wanna play, you've got to be able to defend. And winners will tell you that from day one. I mean, the second you step into the program, it's all about defense. Now, obviously, adding offense to that is necessary, but that has always, since I played for him and since I've been coaching for him, those are the conversations we have around who needs to be on the floor and, minutes and starters, everything. It's all centered on defense for sure.
Love it. You guys have lost 2 games all season. I like to say that losses really just give us feedback, and sometimes we learn. Like you guys have probably learned more from those 2 games than you have a lot of your wins. What have you guys learned about yourselves from those games that have made you better and kind of get into that rhythm that you talked about, Rebekah?
I think our losses, we just need to come out from the start. We usually our losses haven't been, they really weren't that bad to me. I didn't walk away with it like this was a horrible loss. I was like, this is just another opportunity, like you said. Yeah, it wasn't that bad for me. But,
yeah. If I can follow, I know you asked Rebekah. I think the Evansville North game was early, and basically anything that could go wrong the second half did, and credit to them because they kind of made that happen. But that was a huge opportunity for us to kind of learn and see where our gaps were. We had some girls that had been sick or traveling and everything like that, but I think that was where we learned a lot. And then Evansville Central, I mean, just a tremendous team. Super happy for them that they're still playing. Not surprised at all. Very talented. And, going on the road, it was a big day for them. They were celebrating a lot of milestones for Shirley, and she played great and their guards played well. So again, I think it's if you don't come out and play on any night, anybody can win any game, and that's never more true than in the tournament. So
on the other side of things, though, I mean, the one that really grabbed my attention was when you guys took out Center Grove there in early December. Just what does that do for a group when you beat a team of that caliber? What does that do for a team's confidence? How did that kind of propel you through the following weeks of the year?
I think I started to see a lot of more confidence. I think, we were like, okay, like it's not that anybody thought some of our wins early in the season were flukes by any means. Like we were beating teams and beating them well, but to be able to, again, go away to a team that we hadn't beaten in quite a while, a team that has knocked us out of sectionals, and we took some beatings from them the last couple of years. It was definitely a moment where we were like, the girls especially were like, okay, like now I see what we can be and where this season could go from here, I think.
Yeah, like we had that confidence, and that just gave us the reason to believe in it more, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and best of luck this weekend. Hopefully we'll be seeing you Saturday night.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Rebekah Arnold, excuse me, frog in my throat. Torin Whitehead, Rebekah Arnold from Bloomington South joining us. Interview wrap time. Danny, I'll let you start it, and then Court.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Gordello, the journalist in Bloomington that we had on the show, he said it about defense. Coach Whitehead said it. Rebekah Arnold said it. I got text from the Bedford North Lawrence staff about how they've always been known as defense. That's their flagship. And what's very interesting about it is they have to make some decisions as to how they're going to guard the Pike ball screen. Like in that game against Franklin Central in the regional championship, Pike set a bunch of ball screen in the middle third for Alana Devine and Sanaya Smith. And we talked about how it was on time and it was legal, and it moved Duvall and engaged Hatari on the defensive side. I don't know if Keith's going to set a ton of ball screen in this one. Maybe he saw something in Franklin Central, but if they do, the defense is going to be tested because they're going to have to figure out, are we going to switch it? Are we going to trap it? Are we going to drop? Are we going to go in drop coverage, harsh edge recovery? There's a ton of choices. And then once you choose, you still have to execute it on the floor. So that identity of defense is the what to watch. And we're going to see it because that defense is going to be introduced to Pike and Keith Hollins and that train that just doesn't seem to be slowing down at all.
Court.
I think when it comes to these semi-state games and just the tournament in general, like you just have to put together one good game. It's not like we're playing a series, so you've really got to get your scouts down right. And like for Bloomington South, they got to make adjustments the way that are needed. And if they have the culture of being a defensive program, like that can also take you very far. And if you can get kids to buy into a system to lock down Pike for one game, you win the game and you advance. You don't have to see them again ever. So it's going to be interesting.
Ever.
Just do it once, ever, never again.
Never again.
Well, they're predominantly a man team. Like, so in most of their film, they played a ton of man against Anaya Smith at Avon, and just some of the games that were out there. Center Grove, they manned. And that's Bischoff and Grants. Gilliard didn't play that basketball game, but those two, I mean, there's difficult matchups that are out there. Their alternate defense is a 1-3-1. And we've seen this time and time again. And that will be interesting to see. I think that will be very telling as to what they think about the central third ball screen for Pike if we see them in the 1-3-1. So I said there was one thing to watch. There might be two, because as they prepare, we'll see in the first quarter how much of that 1-3-1 that we see.
And two, the timing, as we talked about at the top of the show, that game is interesting because you have that one in the morning. So if Bloomington South is able to pull the upset, which will obviously require a bit of energy, they'll have more time to recover before they take on LN or Gibson Southern, both of whom, like, that feels like it's going to be a 12-round boxing match or whatever the saying is. But we'll get to that game later. Now we're going to move on to 3A, and we're going to start 3A off with a bang because we're talking about what I think is probably the best game across the state. Greensburg 25-0 against Evansville Central 23-4 down at a place called New Albany. That's a noon Eastern start. Greensburg's trying to become the first undefeated champion since 2018. Evansville Central's coming off a thrilling win over Corden Central. And we're going to be joined now by Avery, Kelley, and Maddy, Shirley. How are you guys doing?
Hi, we're great. How are you?
We're doing great. How's semi-state prep going a couple days in?
Oh, it's going great. Good.
I will start just generally and broadly, I guess. Just what was it like going through that overtime game last weekend and having to rally and everything that went into that?
We dug ourselves a hole at the beginning, and we definitely can't do that this upcoming weekend, but we dug ourselves a hole. We had a good talk at halftime, and we get ourselves out of it. So
yeah, Avery, what went into that talk? What can you share, I guess, publicly?
Yeah, I had the chance to win the game for us at the free throw line. I ended up coming short. I've never been under that pressure before, but I just wanted to give you guys some free ball, going to overtime. But that was obviously our way to win right there. It wasn't the free throws. It was overtime. So
that was very considerate. We appreciate it. The concession folks probably appreciate it. They got some extra sales out of it.
Good.
And then friend of the show, I'm sure Kyle Soakland liked it too. He likes the extra time, hanging out and working. How do you recover mentally from something like that? When you miss free throws, a chance to seal it. Like, are you rattled, I guess, for lack of a better term, or what's going through your mind? And Maddy, following up on that after Avery gives her answer, how do you build her up, make sure she's okay.
Yeah, obviously I was really upset with myself because right there I could have won the game with just one shot and I missed both. But mentally, I just had to pull myself out. I had to think not only about myself, but my teammates and my coach. We were there to win regionals. I gave us a free game, and right there we had 4 minutes where we could win. I just couldn't get down on myself. I had to think more of the positive than the negative. I just had to erase what happened, and I think I did that. And so, yeah.
Before she shot the free throws, I went up to her and I was like, Avery, this is your moment. Missing the shots aren't going to cost us the game. You can only win us the game. And I feel like that kind of helped because after I told her the same thing, I was like, you didn't lose us the game. Like, we still have more time. And it's time to not redemption, but like you're able to make up for the misses. So.
Yeah, and my teammates and my coach, they both held my hands, and they told me whatever happens, like, we got this. If I miss it, like Alexander said, we still have a free game, so it's fine. But if we make it, hey, great. Then we win right there.
And it was what, like 3 steals and then a critical couple shots there down the stretch that you got to ice it?
Yeah, I think it was a reverse layup out of an out-of-bounds play and then a steal with, like, 40 seconds left, I believe.
And one.
Yeah, that was the and one. Yep.
That's a way better way to end it than free throws, honestly. So I tip my cap for you. You played it perfectly.
Thank you.
Well, Avery, I mean, congrats. I mean, I when I was watching the game, I had known the outcome. I could only imagine what that storyline was like if I didn't know the outcome. I mean, a very cool environment to play in. But you're starting to be a name now, not just because of the free throws and not because of the reverse layup and the huge and one that just kind of turned Boonville on its side, but you're starting to turn into a name because your reputation is that you're one of the better on-ball defenders, okay, left in this tournament. And you're going to get an assignment, and I would ask you probably not to tell us what that assignment is, but throughout the year, you've drawn huge defensive assignments for Evansville Central, and you're a big part of your success. So I just want you to talk about just that, the pride that goes into it, the preparation that goes into it, the definite challenge that goes into it. Like if you were playing against Evansville Central, you'd guard the kid next to you, and it would be very difficult. So talk about that.
So growing up, I have never been the kid that's going to go court and get 20 points a game. I've never had that mindset either where I'm going to score like this many points. My main mindset has always been I'm going to give 110% on the floor. I'm going to sprint my butt off. I'm going to jump on this ball if some other girl is going for it. I feel like I've also always just wanted to help my teammates. I feel like I can be an asset by getting the steal and then looking to assist to my teammate down the floor. Like Maddy does a great job at running back down for me so I can throw her the ball. In practices, I always like to help my teammates. Like we'll do like JV versus varsity. I like to help the guard by defending her the best as I can and in hopes that it makes her better. And yeah.
And Maddy, the other side of it, obviously the offensive side. I mean, you know that I've been familiar with your game for the last few years. I don't understand what's happening right now. Like, you're shooting 40% from 3, you're shooting 60% from the field, 80% from the line. Like the metrics are there. You have 2 people draped over you. There's like this weird matchup zone that Josh and Corden Central are playing, so you don't know where the face guard is coming from. Like, just top level here. Just like, what is it on the offense? Like, what's clicking right now? What makes sense to you? You're having maybe the best offensive basketball season than anybody in the state right now. So I'm going to ask for your comment on that.
I'm going to have to say it's just the team and just the confidence that they instill in me and have in me. Like, I feel like when we get down, I always see Avery's always mouthing to me, get open, or she's telling me, asking me where she can throw the ball to put me in the best position to score. And I really just think it's all the chemistry me and the team have and how much work we put in. I feel like it's just all clicking and it's working right now. So I hope that stays.
I mean, and it's like, I mean, you have a high release, okay? A lot of girls don't release the ball that high. I mean, the way you shoot actually reminds me of a kid by the name of Lindsay Corsaro. She used to have a really high release too, but you don't need a ton of space to get open. I mean, is that something that you starting to take advantage of? Do you even realize that you're doing it? But like you take shots where it's almost like I know my release point is higher than the closeout on the hand. Like, I don't know. Is that too detailed? Talk about that.
Me and my dad have worked on that since I was in 6th grade because I'm not the fastest. I can't jump the highest, but because of that shot, I'm able to get off a lot of shots over 1 to 2 to 3 defenders sometimes. And I feel we've just worked on it and it's been really like successful for my game.
What was the conversation schematically at the half in regards to what Corden was doing? Was that expected the way that because it wasn't a box and one and it wasn't a 2-3, like they would stay in matchup principles and face guard. Like it was like, I've been coaching for years and years, and I don't know that I figured it out until the second quarter, that like truly what they were doing. What was it like on the floor in the adjustment period when you don't have the ability to like rewind and pause and see what cutters are cutting where?
We definitely, they threw it at us and we kind of folded. We didn't really know what was going on. We turned the ball over a lot. And I don't know if we ever really truly figured out what they were in, but we went in at halftime and he told us we got to slow it down. We're playing like our hair is on fire. So I feel like that's what we did. We came out there, we slowed it down, we played more controlled. And something that really stuck out to me and Avery at halftime was our assistant coach, Richie, said, if this is our last game, is this how you guys want to go out? And
yeah, that really hit, especially as seniors. I remember putting my hand in. I about started to cry already. I was like, come on, now we got to go.
So I feel like that really just put it into perspective that we needed to clean up the game. And we came out, Maya Skelton hit a 3 to start, and I feel like it was a whole new half for us.
It's almost like you guys are in my head a little bit, because somebody asked me, like, what are they all about after watching film? I was actually texting this morning about it, and you guys just seem to be a team that makes winning plays, okay? The Skelton 3 was actually in my head. That was a big time shot at the right moment. Maddy, you got an offensive rebound, I think maybe in the last offensive free throw of the game, you got an offensive rebound that put the game away. We talked about the steal and the reverse layup. Another team that makes winning plays is Greensburg. They just do, with Claire and West and Wilkinson and everybody that's over there. There's going to be kids that just make winning plays. So something's going to give on Saturday. What can you tell us about that matchup, just from your perspective, without getting into the real scheme and strategy of it?
They are a very good team. Obviously, their record reflects that. They play fast. They like to ball pressure. They like to drive. They can shoot threes. I feel like they play very similar to us. So I think it's going to be a good matchup and a good game. And I think it's going to come down to toughness and who wants it more.
And Avery, before I throw it to Courtney, I just want to ask you, and don't tell us who it is, but is there somebody that you want to guard on that team? Like, and if so, like, will you ask for it? Like, will you say, hey, I want this kid or whatever?
There. Of course there's somebody I want to guard, but
yeah.
It's the whole team. Their whole team is really good. They're a really dominant team, but they have 3 really good players, 42, 32, 24. I would be perfectly happy with whoever I get put on. They're all really good. And it's going to make a competition. Like Maddy said, it's going to come down to whoever the tougher team is.
Man, all I can say is sitting here listening to you ladies, like, Avery, I want you to be my teammate. Maddy, I want you on my team. Like, I want to go suit up and play with you guys. Your guys' energy is freaking awesome. And so what makes your guys' culture so good? I know you guys say, like, you guys spend a lot of time, around each other, but, like, teams that are tough and that make winning plays, you guys obviously have a great culture at Evansville Central. So if you were to give, I'm reading the back of a book, like, what is the synopsis of why are you guys such a great team in terms of your culture?
One thing I'll say is we're the definition of a family. We not only go to practice 6 out of 7 days of the week, but we do so many things off the floor together. We text each other all the time. We have this great energy on the court too. Something that's big is too, like, sometimes teammate mess up, you see their other teammate yell at them. We're really good at uplifting one another. Maddy missed a shot. It's fine. You got the next shot. Like, someone on our team could miss, I feel like, 10 shots, but we're still going to bring them up.
I second that. And I feel like what's good about us is everyone knows their role, and they do that role, and they want to do their best to perfect that role. And I feel like that makes us stand out a lot, because you can look at other teams, and other teams are worried about their individual stats or what they did, how they did that game. But for us, a win is a win. It doesn't matter who did what, as long as we got there. So I feel like that kind of separates us and our team from a lot of the others.
This is probably a question that you guys probably never got like in an interview, but I'm a big into mental performance. What do you guys, being seniors, okay, so like the outcome's going to take care of itself. Like, what do you guys want to feel this week and this weekend?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like the feeling of winning sectionals and regionals is just like a feeling you don't get from anything else. Like winning, knowing that we get to another week and we're beating some of the top teams. Like, there's only 8 teams left in 3A. Like, you just want to, it helps you feel like accomplished, and like we played our hearts out and we left everything on the floor, and there's nothing, like, you just feel content with how you played. And that's how I want to feel. Like, I did all I could.
Yeah, to second that, I want to feel content. I don't want to feel like there's something I could have done better with Hazel scoring everything. And I just want to feel that joy with my team. I just, we want to do everything we can possibly to win semi-state. So
I have one very random question, and that's that game that you guys played against Avon where the score was 75-74 and just looked like an amazingly fun circus. Just what was it like playing that game and going through that marathon in Evansville North?
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. It was a real upbeat game, fast pace. We came out at halftime winning, but we kind of lowered the brakes and let them come back a little bit. It was a devastating loss because it was by 1 point with 0.3 seconds left that we lost.
Yeah, we had a turnover at the end that kind of cost us the game, but they're a really good team. I forget her name. They have a really, really good guard, and we've never really seen anything like that from the southern part of the state. So I think it was good to see and be able to play some of the northern teams and their abilities compared to ours. So
one more relevant question that's a little more relevant for me. Just does Greensburg, do they compare to any other teams or collection of teams that you guys have seen during the regular season or during this postseason run?
I'm not sure. I've only watched one game. I watched their regional game. Like I said, they look fast, they drive, they can shoot, they do a little bit of everything. I feel like playing those teams like Carmel and Avon and Fishers, we played a pretty tough schedule. So I feel like all of those games are going to come and help us prepare for that. So
good stuff. Well, Avery and Maddy, thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck to you guys this weekend.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Take care.
Good luck,
You
girls.
too.
Avery, Kelley, Maddy, Shirley from Evansville Central with us. Danny, wrap us up.
That's the best game of the 3A morning slate, and it's not even close. Look, it's got all the headlines, right? I mean, it's got the great players, Larison in 27, Shirley in 26, Weston 25. It's got the undefeated storyline with 3A. But I, too, watched that Greensburg-Washington game that Maddy had referenced that she had watched on film. Like, Greensburg's super impressive. Washington is a very good basketball team that had a good plan that actually, that was a one-possession basketball game virtually throughout. I know the final score might have been 6 or something like that. But, just thinking back, Larison had 12 in the first quarter. If my recollection serves me correct, it was almost even before – it seemed like Leah West touched the ball. It seemed like Larison had 12. I think it was 8 straight or something like that. They just make plays. And it's just crazy that Evansville Central is very much the same. When watching the Corden Central game, they're just kids that just made plays at the appropriate time. I think what's going to be interesting in this basketball game, and this was kind of my one thing to watch, is the mistakes that they made. Can you penalize those mistakes? In the Greensburg-Washington game, there were a couple of possessions early in the game where there was some confusion as to how they were playing ball screen. Like a kid would go over, they would be in drop coverage on the hedge, and Larison would drive in and get a layup. Then there was a ball screen possession. They set it on its side. Literally 2 possessions later, they went under, and then Larison hits a 3. Like they just read and react so well and make plays. So I wonder, the different things that Evansville and Greensburg do defensively, can the other team penalize the mistakes that they made? I think is a huge key and kind of the what to watch. Court?
My what to watch would be Maddy Shirley, junior. She's putting together a Miss Basketball resume. So I would, for those of you guys who are tuning in that game, check out Maddy Shirley, because potential Miss Basketball 2026.
That's a really good point. Like the Miss Basketball stuff starts in the postseason of their junior year. And we saw it maybe most notably with maybe like Jayla Smith, who's at Purdue now, is a really good example. Okay. Ari Wiggins was the number 1 player in that class for a while. Meg Newman at North Central was a kid that was getting a ton of pub. But then Jayla Smith navigates her team all the way to Gainbridge. I think at that point in time, it might have been called Banker's Life. Hits 6 threes in the state championship game, has a game high 22, and then enters the next season as the favorite. I mean, if Maddy Shirley knocks off Greensburg, for example, that's a huge win, and then goes next weekend and finishes this thing against maybe an Addi Baxter, and everybody sees it. I mean, that's going to be something that's going to be stapled to her Miss Basketball resume for a while. And not just Maddy. I'm not pumping Maddy for it, but any of the juniors. Like,
it's a good
there's
point.
a ton of
She's the
really good 26s. Yeah. So that's a really good point, Courtney. A really, really good point.
Absolutely. We're going to move a little elsewhere in 3A, I guess to the north. Delta's to the north. We're going to go ahead and bring on Cade Hampton of the Star Press up in Muncie. Cade covers Delta among other schools up there. We were texting yesterday about the game, and I know he's excited for it. Cade, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good, man. Good.
Cade.
Glad to have you on. How are you surviving? I know this time of year, especially for people who have to cover everything, sucks especially hard. Can suck especially hard.
Yeah, it's it's a lot to it. Yeah, I mean, with Delta and Monroe Central both winning their sectionals, their seasons lasted a lot longer than everybody else around here. And then I've still got wrestling and swimming I'm paying attention to, and then also Ball State football as well. So it's a lot to deal with, but I'm having a good time making my way around, and it's been a good first 6 months on the job so far.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So let's dive into Delta. First time regional champs, right? Kind of just this remarkable run that they're on at 18-7. Just what has it been like? What have the vibes been like covering that team here over the past few weeks and throughout the season, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, in the short time that I've been here, I would say that this Delta girls basketball team, in terms of vibes, has been probably the most fun team to cover, because they have been just on a run that this program has never seen in its history before. Like you said, they just won their first regional championship in school history. The sectional title was their first since I think 93. So it's been 30-something years since they won one of those. And it's just, I don't think anyone really expected them to go on this run. Second-year head coach, they still had a pretty relatively inexperienced team with not a lot of seniors, or actually no seniors. They have 0 seniors on this roster. So, for them to go on this run, and then the job that Coach Tyronda Benning has done in just 2 seasons has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, to turn the program around as fast as she has been really impressive.
One of the things you and I were texting about yesterday, Junior Griffin Knight, she's been out with injury. She was averaging 16 points a game, 4 steals. How have they adjusted to her absence and made things work despite not having her in the lineup?
Yeah, that has been definitely the big story of their run. I mean, it's a challenge when your second leading scorer is, out. And I think it was the sectional semifinal game that she got injured in. But Olivia Marshall has really stepped up. She came off the bench into the starting lineup, and she had a really impressive game in the sectional title against Yorktown, knocked down some big 3-pointers that got them some momentum. And then Jillian Barr and Addison Barnes are kind of the big 3 with Griffin Knight, and Jillian Barr somehow has shouldered even more of a load offensively than she was, which she was kind of their go-to number 1 option. So for her to, continue to pick up even more of the looks that she's getting and just continue to dominate has been really impressive. And then Barnes has also upped her aggressiveness, just inside, outside. She's kind of Knight was kind of more of the outside shooter that they would go to and look for, and Barnes was kind of the drive and kick. But now Barnes has taken on more of an outside shooting role as well.
Yeah, Jillian Barnes, that's the lefty, right, Cade?
You know, now that you mention it, I don't really know, but
I think it is. Yeah. So just, I mean, go deeper on her. He's the one when I've seen him a couple times through. Maybe Mount Vernon was one. She seems to jump off the screen for me, anyways. I think she's got really good size. She's smooth. She can score at multiple levels. She seems like a key, and the reason why I kind of bring her name up is there's a very similar player over in Norwell by the name of Vanessa Rosswurm, who does have some length and some athleticism and scores at different levels. I think it's going to be fun to kind of see these two kids kind of go at each other in that morning game. But talk about Jillian Barr, just independent of her team.
Yeah, I mean, Jillian, it really seems like in like the second half of the season, once we hit January, she really shifted gears and took her game up another level. And then even in the postseason with the injury to Knight, it seems like she somehow found a different level to continue elevating to, because I mean, she got like I think it was a season high 31 points in the sectional championship against Yorktown, and just everything she provides. I mean, she's their go-to scorer. She can score down low. She's the top rebounder. She's averaging a double-double, and she averages like 6 stocks. So defensively, she's, you know, a really big standout there. Down low, she'll get blocks down low. She'll get steals. And then I mean, even though she's, you know, primarily playing inside, from her outside shot is a really underrated part of her game. I feel like in the county championship against Wapahani, she knocked out a couple of 3-pointers, which we hadn't really seen her do that much. So it's something that she can do, even though it's not something that necessarily they ask her to do very much. You know, she can still, if she gets an open look, she's going to take it and she can knock those down. So for, you know, her just as a leader, as kind of the go-to player, I mean, she has really been impressive. And especially in this postseason run, she has been absolutely dominant.
Well, in preparation of talking to you, in one of your articles, and I'm not sure it was the regional championship, it probably was. It was mentioned in the lead about how it was done in front of not one empty seat in the Delta section. I was surprised at the beginning of the discussion when you said that this is the first girls regional championship. Did I hear that correct, Cade?
Yeah, this is the first regional championship in school history.
Well, wow. I mean, the boys' side has had a ton of success. I mean, this is where Matt Painter went, right? This is where Rob Robbins went. This is where P.D. Jackson went. I mean, I know those names because, I mean, I guess when I played, thankfully, all of those people for the first time, I give a list that, you know, people that are all older than me, but like those were big names. I think a lot. I mean, obviously what Painter's doing in the state of Indiana, you know, but I mean, P.D. Jackson went to Ball State and was like an all-MAC player. Like, this is a very, very proud fan base. Norwell travels well too. Like, Cade, they're going to play in front of 3,500 people on Saturday morning, aren't they? The entire town is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, the regional matchup was the one I believe I wrote about, the packed house, and that was at Westdale, which is, you know, only about 15 minutes away from Delta. So it was a pretty, easy trip for them. But I mean, yeah, for them to continue to make history like this, it has really inspired the fan base. And that was something that Coach Benning and all the players really talked about. They said they had never played in front of a crowd of that level. And just, you know, they really appreciated the opportunity. They were ready to lock in and, you know, make the home crowd happy. And I'm sure, you know, I remember watching the selection show with his name's Zach Carter. He's with the Ball State Daily News. He's the lead editor. So he's a great kid. But he and I were watching the thing, and we were, you know, fingers crossed. We were like, man, if they put Delta in New Albany, that is like, what the hell are we doing here? So we were very happy to see them put in the, you know, it's only about an hour away, and I would definitely expect the Delta crowd, the Delta fans, to travel and pack that gym out 100%.
Yeah, and Norwell will too. So anyway, go ahead, take it, Court.
It would have been really funny though if they ended up in Jasper. Just on a for me personally, I would have laughed at you. I thought that would have been funny. Sorry, I'm tempting karma with that statement. I better start learning Laportese. That's
Cade, I have a story and something that's completely not related with basketball, kind of tied in with basketball. So we were doing some youth basketball training over at Delta a few years ago, and my husband, obviously Danny, answered and said earlier that Matt Painter went to Delta. So my husband worked under Matt at Purdue, so he reached out and said, hey, we're going over to Delta. Like, where is the spot that we got to eat at? And so we're waiting like to get, him to say like some mom and pop restaurant that's fantastic. And he's like, you guys got to go to the Pizza King. And we're like, Pizza King? And he was absolutely right. So right around the corner from Delta, whenever I think of Delta, there's the Pizza King and the Royal Feast. So before we go on, I want your analysis on the Royal Feast pizza from Pizza King around the corner from Delta.
Oh man. Okay. This really is so embarrassing, and I'm probably going to offend any of my Muncie viewers watching this, but I actually have yet to try Pizza King. I know it's really embarrassing, but in the time I've been here, I just haven't had a chance to go. I've had Mancino's a couple of times. They're another one of the local spots, and they're actually right around the corner from me, so it's a little easier for me to get there. But it's on the list. It's on the agenda. I mean, I feel like everywhere I go, every high school parking lot, somebody has a bumper sticker that says "I Heart Pizza King." So I know that it's a quite popular chain around here, and it's something I need to try. But yeah, I mean, it truly is embarrassing that I started here in September. I still haven't been to Pizza King. So to any Muncie Delta viewers watching this, I'm so sorry, and I promise I'm going to try it soon.
Hey, Cade, I'll further endorse Courtney's Royal Feast. That is the order at Pizza King. I would additionally add to ask, and I actually don't think it's on the menu, ask for half-baked breadsticks. They're fantastic.
Okay.
The butter falls off of them. But if you order a Royal Feast and half-baked breadsticks, you will be back on the show thanking us 100%.
Okay, good to know. I'll have to come back just for a pizza breakdown. Y'all are making me hungry talking about that. I just pizza and half-baked breadsticks. I'm gonna have to go get that.
At the end of the interview, we'll get Danny's food recommendations for Huntington, the Huntington area. Danny usually comes through clutch with that stuff.
Instead of tossing the pizza, why don't we toss it forward to the game, Delta versus Norwell? What are your thoughts, Cade, on the matchup that Delta's drawn in that game one?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know a whole lot about Norwell, but I mean, as far as Delta goes, I mean, they pride themselves on their defense. That is their, go-to, is bringing the intensity, bringing 32 minutes of just lockdown, aggressive defense the whole way. So I mean, the way they play, they're going to give anybody a headache. I know with Rosswurm, is that how you say it, in the middle, down low there? Rosswurm. That's going to be that matchup with Barr is going to be very interesting. And then, but I mean, as long as Delta, if they can, play their game and jump out to an early lead like they did in the regional championship, I think that really helped them, because the second halves, I think, as teams start to kind of adjust to Delta's defense and the aggressiveness, it kind of leaves them a little more prone to like second half runs. So like the regional championship, they, were up big. They were up double digits at halftime. And then in the fourth quarter, it ended up getting really close again. And they kind of had to keep scoring to pull away. So, and then there was another game, I believe it was the second time they played Yorktown in the county championship, or the county semifinal. They were up huge at halftime, and it ended up being like a 3-point game was the final score. Yorktown outscored them 21-10 in the fourth quarter. So, as long as Delta can, stay locked in and keep the offense scoring, as, if the defense does kind of start to break down a little bit in the second half, as long as the offense can keep up, then I think they should be able to pull this off.
Oh, do you have another one, Court?
Oh, no, I'm good.
So, Cade, I guess just being the underdog, I think the computers have Norwell as a pretty heavy favorite. I suppose this is really nothing new for Delta, right? Like, they were kind of underdogs going into the sectional, definitely underdogs last week in regional. So they're probably very comfortable where they're sitting at right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they, appreciate the underdog mentality. I think they, understand that as a program, they've never achieved this level of success before. They are literally farther in this tournament than they've ever been. So, people look at that and they're not expected, like you said, Norwell, the heavy favorite, and Delta with the lack of experience, second-year head coach. It's like, a lot of people might not be expecting them to pull this off, but I think that kind of underdog mentality, that is something that they appreciate and something that they'll kind of use as fuel.
All right, that's Cade Hampton. Cade, tell the folks where they can find your stuff and what you're going to have coming up this week.
Yeah, you can find my stuff in the Star Press, and I am also on Twitter at CadeHamp10 with the number 10 replacing the TON in my name. And this week I am going to obviously cover Delta, and then I also have some wrestling coverage, and I also have a story on a Newcastle basketball player. His name is Landon Thompson. He's a senior. I'm going to their game tonight to interview him. He had a pretty serious leg injury last year, and he's, had a really strong season, so he's coming back from that. And then, I'll have some Ball State football, spring football stuff coming out soon. So lot to get excited about around here.
Good stuff, good stuff. Well, thanks, Cade. Appreciate you coming on with us, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Cade Hampton of the Star Press joins us. Talking Delta-Norwell.
Yeah, they're significant underdogs. You had mentioned that, Hank. Cade had also mentioned the pressure defense. What's ironic about this game, and this will probably be my one kind of coach's what to watch thing, is it's going to be 1-3-1 versus 1-3-1. I mean, it's mainly when I turned on multiple Delta film, that was the defense that they were in. I mean, Eric Thornton at Norwell, Donna Buckley, Janon Lampley, Candy Wilson. I mean, these coaches that are associated with the 1-3-1. What's ironic about that is both teams now running that defense. That means this is what they rep generally during the week as well. So I think the comfort level against playing against Eric Thornton's 1-3-1 is going to be higher than what you would generally expect in a basketball game for somebody that isn't on Norwell's schedule. So I don't know if Eric is going to add some variance to it and a little nuance change to it. He probably will not. I mean, they run it in different ways, but this is going to be the battle of the odd front zones. And I think that the ability to throw skip passes and hit corner threes is going to be vital. And Delta can stick around if they can reverse the basketball, make the right read out of two, make extra passes, and knock shots down. So that's my what to watch there.
It's going to be an interesting game. It's another one where you kind of get a weird feeling like Delta's got something special working there. I mean, you lose a player of the caliber that they did. They're still rolling. They managed to overcome that. They're good at grinding out those low-scoring games as they showed last week at regional. So we'll see. And we'll get a chance, too, as a reminder, we'll get a chance to talk with Eric Thornton, head coach at Norwell, and then their junior stand-up, Vanessa Rosswurm, who's just been phenomenal this year in keeping them afloat after graduating so many key pieces from last year's state runner-up team. All right, Danny, I think we're going to keep it in 3A. I forget who we just talked to, but we're going to keep it in 3A, and we're going to go ahead and bring on Addison Baxter from Columbia City. Columbia City is getting ready for their semi-state game against Highland. Columbia City coming in at 23-4. Highland at 15-10. They are the noon game over there at LaPorte. Addi, what's up?
Hi.
It's great to see you. How are things?
They're doing great. I mean, the girls are great. My team's great. Our community's great. We're feeling good.
So we talked about it a little bit off air, but I'll start the discussion with this. Just how have you seen this team grow and develop since the beginning of the season?
I just feel right now like all the girls are playing their role. They're playing exactly how we need them to play. Girls are stepping up. I mean, Olivia Kidd has been playing great offensively, and she's one of our best defensive players. And Nisa's been shooting great. Tora's been hitting her shots. Lainey's been playing really good defense for us. And the girls off the bench are playing with so much more confidence this postseason than they have been in the season. That's been really big for us to be able to come in and trust them to make the right reads, to make good plays, to hit their shots. And it's just really important, and it's really hard to guard. Just like it's super easy to guard just one person on our team. So when we have everybody that's clicking and contributing, we're really hard to stop.
Addi, we'll get to some of those names that you had mentioned. Just maybe next level a little bit. I want to start with Leah Hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
She, in watching you guys through the season, she seems to be your defensive stopper, if you will. I mean, she drew the Rosswurm assignment when you guys played Norwell on the road. She had the big steal in the and one in the Homestead game. That was a big mark for her. Just talk about her and the things that she brings. I mean, I noticed that in that Norwell game specifically, you were playing a little bit off of Rosswurm, and you were kind of had the freedom to kind of jump on penetration, on ball screen, things like that. So just talk about how Leah changes you guys.
I think she works extremely hard. I mean, she always is getting the stops. She makes the right reads. She's crashes the boards, which she can jump out of this gym. She's extremely athletic. And so just all the little things that we need on defense, she does that for us. And I mean, for her to come off the bench and bring that spark and bring that energy and to be able to count on her to keep the energy and keep us rolling when she comes in it's so important to our team and to the foundation of our team. And so I think it's kind of cool that she's from Huntington North. She moved here this year, and that we're going and playing at Huntington North this year for semistate. And so I think it's kind of cool that she gets to go back there and play.
That's cool. Good for you guys. And a little bit out of order here, but you had talked about some of your shooters, and we've talked just, casually kind of throughout the year. One of the things that I had talked about was you kind of had to score coming into the year, and I think you've proven me wrong. I mean, I think you've just continued to play the game in the same way that you've played it. You're just playing it at a higher level. You're just getting offensive production from catch and release three from kids like Anissa Tonkel, Holler. I mean, even in that Norwell game, Knitter came in off the bench and hit a three. You can take this explanation wherever you want to take it, but did you expect this, or was this by design, or was you just trying to prove me wrong, or what's the deal here?
So last year, obviously, we lose 4 starters, but it's just the girls performed like this last year in practice. And so this isn't really surprising to me to see any of this, because I've seen it last year. I've seen it this year. They work so hard. I mean, the shots that they're taking are shots that they're comfortable with because it's what we work on in practice. And so Tora hitting those threes, which is big because she's our post presence, that they have to come out and guard her on the 3-point line is incredible. And it's difficult to guard her in that aspect, but also just Anissa shooting with the confidence that she is shooting with, especially being a starter this year, just that extra confidence that she has in her game. That's super important and awesome. Same with Lainey Ziliak. I mean, when she's on, like, she is on. And so that's been really important for us. And even Olivia Kidd, like, she works so hard all the time. Like, when I would go in the morning, she would come in with me and shoot. And just to see her shot really come together, and she's a knockdown shooter as well. It's really made us hard to guard. Like, you can't just stop me anymore. Like, you really just have to guard everyone because there's 10 girls on our team that can score.
Addi, how do you get kids to unlock that? You mentioned seeing it in practice this last year. So how do you, as a senior and your other leaders on that team, how do you get them to unlock that and get it to start translating to a game setting?
It was important this summer for me to get girls to recognize that, like, that's the shot you have to take. So in games, if Easy Knitter was open and she wouldn't shoot it, like, even now, like the past game, I was out in foul trouble and she had an open shot off a screen and she didn't shoot it. And like halftime, I was like, Izzy, you have to shoot that. That's your shot. That's what we need from you. And so just even since the summer, just harping on them, like, that's the shot that's open. That's the best shot in our offense. It doesn't always have to go through me. It doesn't have to go through Anissa. Like, what the defense is giving you, that's the best shot. And so just getting the girls to be comfortable to take those. I really started this at the beginning of summer and early this season.
Can you feel is the pressure on you? Have you felt it kind of ease a little bit? Like, do you feel a lot less of the weight of the world on your shoulders, so to speak?
I definitely felt like the whole weight of the world go off when I broke that record. I just felt like everything just kind of relaxed for me for a little bit because, I mean, that was the big goal for me. And now I'm obviously want to score, but only if that's what the game dictates for me. I just want to play that role that's going to make us win. So if that's for me to like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, like dictate the game and facilitate, that's what I was looking for, then that's what I need to do because of the way the defenses are going to play me. And so I think it's been so nice to have those girls step up this season and to really just take that pressure off of me and just to let me play free.
Addi, by the way, the program's all-time leading scorer, Danny, in case you'd forgotten that.
No, hard to forget. I mean, she's going to hold a bunch of different records, I'm sure, when all said and done. Where's the just the attitude of the team right now? Well, let me answer this. So, like, UConn is going to be at Butler, right? I mean, so, but you guys have plans. Like, you didn't get tickets, did you?
No.
Addi, please tell us that story, by the way.
They asked me a couple months ago if I wanted to go to that game. They posted it, said it was sold out, and I was like, they were like, here, you can get a couple tickets. And I was like, no, I'll be busy. Won't be there. I'll have plans. And here we are. I have plans. I won't be there.
That's phenomenal energy. Sorry, Danny, go ahead.
No. Listen, good for you. But what was the, obviously your level of expectation was there. I mean, the team's level of expectation was there. But, when did you guys start to realize that you are a third or fourth weekend team? Or is that something that you guys have always believed?
I feel like since I've been a freshman, even been a sophomore, like we truly believe that we deserve to be sectional champions, regional champions, semi-state champions. But this year specifically, it was that Homestead win was really big for us. I think just the entire team played so well. We just all played our role. We all contributed. I mean, I was our leading scorer. I had 13 points because we were just so even in that aspect of scoring because everybody just stepped up and played the role that they needed to play. And then that Norwell win right after that. But really, I think we started to click extremely well in our holiday tournament at Twin Lakes. We played amazing basketball there and just really have not looked back since. So, yeah.
And the Fishers game, like, remind me, because that's why I think that might have been one of the last times I saw you live. Was that before Christmas?
That was our third game of the season.
Yeah, okay. You guys look like anything but. I mean, you guys look like anything but a state championship level basketball team that day. And so that's the root to the question, quite honestly. So now here you are in semi-state, right? I mean, and you guys are double-digit favorites in the morning game, and now you have an opponent that perhaps is going to be there that you've already beaten before by double digits. What's your approach this week? What's being said in the locker room, in the practice room, the film room, things like that? What's your approach?
So obviously the most important game of our entire season is at 12 p.m. against Highland. Like they're our next matchup. They're the team that we have that's in our way of a state championship. And so obviously the focus is on them. We're prepping for 3 teams because you don't know who's going to come out of the morning game. But obviously we're very familiar with the favored team to win the morning. And so we're prepping for them. We're prepping for Delta. Obviously, our main focus right now is Highland because we got to get over them in order to play in the evening game. But just hats off to all the teams that are there and that we could possibly play because, I mean, it's semi-state. You've had to work really hard to get here. I know our team has been through so much my entire career at Columbia City. So just for us to be here, it's really special and means a lot to us to be here. But we're not ready to be done yet.
Speaking of that first game that you guys have, Jordan Steele at Highland is coming off she had 41 points in a sectional game. She scored 35 of their 56 points against Culver Academies to spur the upset there. I mean, what jumps out to you when you watch that kid on film?
I think she makes good reads. She's a good shooter. She has a good pullback jump shot. So just being able to contain her and not let all the other girls get going will be important for us. We're still fine-tuning some things and trying to figure out what we're going to do against them defensively and offensively. So, but just I think she's a great player and I think she has a lot of talent, but just being able to stop her will be key.
Addi, I want to ask you a question about passing the basketball. Okay, it's not the talent that people come necessarily to the gym to see. Okay, but you do it at such a high level. I'm thinking of a couple of them in particular. There was the behind the back pass and transition on the 2-1 and against Norwell. Hank actually sent me a clip of one where you were actually on your backside.
Oh yeah,
an over the head bounce pass across the lane, across traffic. Like, I mean, where's your? I mean, do you like? Does that just come very naturally? Like, what's the deal here? Like, is that something that you look to do to try to, create momentum or what is that?
I love doing a behind the back pass. I think I've done it like 3 or 4 times this season. So whenever the opportunity presents itself, I surely take advantage. But my sophomore year, it was a super intense practice. We were going, I don't know. It was just it was very intense. And I did a behind the back pass in practice and everybody just kind of so ever since then, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do it whenever I can. But just like the other aspect, I don't know. I feel like I see things very well. I see how things develop before they develop. And I think that was on display in sectionals, especially in that Fairfield game. We had a lot of backdoor looks, and I was able to make that because I can make the read. But it's also just the chemistry I have with my teammates, honestly, is I just know where they're going to be. They make the right cuts. And I think they know that I'm going to get it to them. And so that's just a lot of it goes to the chemistry I have with my team.
Have they always known that, though? I mean, because sometimes you throw these passes, and I can only imagine. I've been in gyms lots of times where kids will put it on somebody's hands and be like, well, I've never played with a kid that could pass the ball like that. I mean, was there an adjustment period for your teammates?
Yeah, I definitely would say that I throw the passes pretty hard sometimes and pretty fast. So just at the beginning, we struggled a little bit with them being able to catch that. But that's also like on me because I need to be able to give them a pass that they can handle. So a little bit of that's on me.
Sorry, go ahead, Hank.
I have my microphone muted. Like, Addi, do you want to see that pass that I texted Danny about? Do you want to relive it, Danny? Do you want to see it again?
Let's see it.
That was a really fun pass. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Okay, so we got the people yelling travel in the background, which is delightful. But Addi, why don't you talk us through that specific play there? I don't even remember what game it's from. It's just so funny. So just talk us through what you're seeing on that play when it's going on.
Well, I was supposed to come off a screen, and then they started to trap me. And then I don't even know how I started falling, but I started my leg gave out. I started falling, and then I was like, oh my gosh, Anissa's wide open. Why don't I just throw that real quick?
So smooth and so simple. And Danny, by the way, because I know you forgot this, she's also the program's all-time assist leader.
I would have probably, I probably wouldn't have guessed anybody else, Hank. You probably had that, Addi. You probably had that record last year, right?
I got it at our Carroll game this year.
Okay, so you got it this year. Okay. Well, the recipient of that pass was Tonkel.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been a monster, Addi. Like, Anissa's been a monster. She in the Norwell game, and I'm kind of centering in on the Norwell game because I think it's going to be there's a real good chance that that's going to be relevant on Saturday night. But she's led you in scoring a couple of times. She's led you, at halftime scoring. She's shooting the three at a high clip. She was running the floor really, really well. She's got to be one of the keys this weekend, right?
She just brings such an intensity and such an energy to our team when she's on. She runs the floor faster in games than when we do in sprints in practice. So, I mean, that really brings a lot of energy and a lot of just give me buckets and situations where we just need those easy ones in transition. And that's really inspired the rest of our teammates to run in transition. And I think that's a huge part of our game now is transition break. We work on it all the time in practice, but I think a lot of that energy stems from her and how hard she runs and how hard she plays. And that's really important. I think she's extremely versatile. She can play the 1 through the 5 spot. Sometimes she plays the 5 for us. And when I'm out, she'll play the 1 for us. And it says a lot to the kind of player that she is, that she's able to take on all those roles. And she does it at such a high level that she's an extremely key part of our team.
Before I throw it back to Hank and get you out, I told the story on the pod, and I'm not sure if you had heard it, about how you snuck Chipotle, I think it was, a Chipotle bowl into the Homestead-Warsaw game. So I'll do my best to embarrass you. I was kind of asking around. I'll let you tell either one of 2 stories, okay? Apparently you had maybe a collision with an ostrich at one point in time.
I'm sorry,
there was something that happened at
How do you know that?
the 4th grade Black Pine Animal Sanctuary. I'll let you tell either of those 2 stories to get you out.
What a finisher. Jeez Louise.
I will tell the Chipotle story, but I was in kindergarten with the ostrich. Anyways, the Chipotle is, I went with my boyfriend Grayson to get Chipotle with his younger sister. We were meeting Anissa and Lainey to go to the Homestead-Warsaw game because, I have a bunch of friends on both. I wanted to support my girls, wanted to watch a great game. And we got Chipotle, and then I was like, oh, shoot. I don't even know if we're allowed to have this in the building. But I spent $30 on Chipotle, and so I was like, I'm not about to throw this away or let it go cold. And so I have a huge parka that we got for my soccer team, and I put it in my pocket. And I walked in. Sure enough, we were able to have food. So I don't even know. I just forgot to take it out of my pocket. Anyways, I see Danny. I'm like, oh, hey, Danny. And he like goes to give me a hug. And I'm like, I'm really sorry if you like feel something weird. It's my Chipotle that's in my pocket.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. Danny, Addi, by the way, I think the all-time leading scorer for the soccer team. I know for sure you forgot that, which is just
Not
embarrassing
shocking.
for you.
Not shocking.
So embarrassing for you. Addi, you got run over by an ostrich?
No, I didn't get run over, but I got bit by an ostrich. I was just trying to feed it, and it just nipped my hand.
I see. Well, Addi, thank you so much for hopping on with us. It's been great catching up with you, and we'll hopefully be talking to you again here soon.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Addi.
Mm-hmm.
Addi Baxter of Columbia City. Danny, one quick thought here before we pivot over to Norwell.
Yeah, I brought up passing in the interview. That's the best passer of the basketball. Oh, it's the best passer of the basketball that I've probably seen since Allie Patberg, who won Miss Basketball. McDonald's All-American, went to Notre Dame, transferred to Indiana, and led that team to a top 5 ranking and Elite 8. Passing is its decision making, its timing, both in the cut and in time and score situation. There's execution. There's also some flash to it. We talked about the behind the back pass. We talked about the pass across the lane from the knees. And like I said, that team, very rarely do you go to the gym to watch somebody pass the basketball. But if you're going to do it, go watch the best pass. I don't know if there's going to be a better passer of the basketball for a few years. I'll date back to the first thing that we said on this podcast when we talked about Addi Baxter. I was having a round of golf with her future college coach, Austin Parkinson, and he said that's the most complete point guard prospect to come out of Indiana at the point guard position in the last several years. And I don't want to say I was surprised, but as I watched her and studied her game more, that kid's to graduate 4 starters last year, to come back this year, and to get elevated production from kids like Holler and Tonkel and Knitter and all of those kids. It's because she passes it so well. Columbia City is a very fun watch, shockingly, because Addi distributes the ball.
And that sets up perfectly too as we transition to Norwell, because it's a similar situation where they graduated quite a bit with Kennedy Felling and Mackenzie Feast from last year on that state runner-up team. But I mean, Vanessa Rosswurm has been phenomenal. Macy Salfrank, I had a chance to see them over Christmas at Noblesville. They were phenomenal there. And Eric's just done such a great job keeping them rolling here. And we kind of alluded to it. Nobody's counting their chickens before they hatch, obviously, but that's barreling towards a Norwell Columbia City semi-state championship there.
I would go on to add this too, Hank. Because Addi's the all-time leading scorer, you might approach a basketball game and say, well, we got to take Addi Baxter away. But if you're a coach that subscribes to the theory that we are going to take away what your best player does best, stands to reason that you would stay home on Tonkel and Holler and everybody and make Addi go get 35 or 40 on 25, 28 attempts and take her ability to pass the ball away. It's so counterintuitive to what Maddie Shirley has to do, Maya McAlusky has to do, Brooke Zartman has to. It's so counterintuitive to all of that stuff. But it makes you wonder that maybe people just stay home and say, you know what, Addi, you're not passing. You're going to score and make her go out and get 35.
It's going to be a fascinating matchup to watch develop. Danny, now we move to the other side of the 3A semi-state North bracket. We're joined now by Vanessa Rosswurm, Coach Eric Thornton of Norwell High School. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Eric, how are you?
Hey, we're good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see you guys. How are things?
They're pretty good.
How's semi-state prep going over there, Eric?
Hey, it's going well. Haven't gotten anybody hurt here these first couple of days, so I think that's the main thing at this point, right?
Yeah, I like that you come out of the gates testing fate. That's usually Danny's job, so I tip my cap.
Yeah.
I knocked on wood for you as soon as you started saying it.
All right.
Vanessa, I'll start with you in this. I mean, I saw you guys play at Noblesville. I think it was over the Christmas holiday, and I was so impressed by you and what Macy were able to do scoring wise. How have you seen? I'll let Danny ask about you two specifically, but how have you seen your guys' teammates come along? Like, how has this team kind of rounded out as the season's progressed?
I think in the beginning of the season, it was kind of a struggle for us just to kind of find our roles and just like know how we play. But I just feel like over time we have just like learned to just trust each other and just find each other on the floor pretty well and just to work with that.
Eric, I know you and I talked after that game, and this was kind of the expectation for you guys to get to this point, to have an opportunity to get back to Gamebridge. How have the girls done that? I mean, where a lot of people probably were overlooking you guys to an extent with the number of pieces you graduated.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit we're probably still under the radar a little bit, which is totally fine. That's where we need to be. But I kind of question myself a little bit. We threw a lot at them. You look at that first weekend, and we're going Cathedral and then Warsaw, back to back, and then we roll right into Northrop, and then we go into Northridge, and then we go Homestead, and it was. It was what last year's team needed to do, but, we're on year 2 of most of those contracts. And, we're going to keep those schools on there for sure. We chose hard. And, for us, makes you question yourself a little bit as a coach. Am I doing the right thing for these kids? But they're resilient. These kids have proven that it was the right thing to do, and they've risen. They've risen to those expectations. And maybe not even as much risen as they already had those expectations. I know one of the things Vanessa talked to me about in the offseason was how much she loved last year's seniors, but how much she was looking forward now to doing this with this junior group and so on. Not just the juniors, but you know what I mean? That's who she's grown up with in our program. And that's one of the best things I think about coaching is seeing a girl like Vanessa, who we go into June, her playing point guard isn't even on my radar at that point. I mean, I'm not even thinking that. She's always been a kid who, is waiting to get the ball and not having the ball in her hands, and has really not played, to my knowledge, even in travel ball, point guard. So that kind of came a couple weeks into June. And so even when you look, we had Vanessa coming back, and then after that, we didn't have a whole lot of anything. That's been the best thing about this group is they've found their own way. It's definitely their team. They've grown up in our system and so on, but this is new for all of them. Their roles, doing it at this level is totally different, especially against the rigor of the schedule that we chose to have.
Vanessa, what's that like from a player's perspective? I know this year's a little different, whereas last year you guys kind of took some licks against the big teams. I mean, this year you're hanging with Homestead, you're hanging with Northridge. I mean, the only time you guys really got beaten handily this year, I think, was the Warsaw game, right? So inside the room, does it serve kind of that bonus, I guess, of building the confidence when you are having close losses, or how does that feel as a player or look as a player?
I feel like it definitely gives us confidence, but it also just shows that like we are so much capable of like than what other people think, and it just shows like how much faith we have in each other, and just knowing that, hey, we're hanging in with these big teams, and that just means that like we just have so much to look forward to and just so much to improve on, and just to see how the season goes. It just shows how much we believe in each other.
Vanessa, and I'm not sure when you started listening to the show or if this is the first time you've ever listened, but last year when I described you or talked about you in the scope of talking about Norwell, it was the disruption that you created at the top of Coach Thornton's 1-3-1 zone. And Eric had alluded to some of the things that I'd love to hear you comment on about you handling the ball, looking to score. I mean, going to the coach and talking about, your role and help defining your own role is a big step in leadership too. You've been fantastic this year, but just, can you go a little deeper on the evolution? I mean, is this something that you, did you have to convince Coach Thornton to shoot a little bit more, to be a little bit more downhill, or where's this coming from?
I will admit I was not expecting to be point guard going to June ball. I'm pretty sure the last time I ever played point guard was probably in elementary school, but whenever he was like, hey, we're going to try you play point guard a couple games, I was excited for it. I know that I was capable of doing it. And just as like we started playing more and more games, and I handled the ball a couple times in AAU this year too, but just like playing more games as a point guard, that really just showed like how well I can do, and just shows like I can play very in like different positions no matter like what it comes up to. So yeah.
Well, from the looks of it, you seem to be leading the team. And before we get into this year's team, you obviously were a part of a very deep postseason run last year and were a shot away from having a blue ring. Talk about what you learned from Kennedy and McKenzie and the rest of that senior class that you were able to carry over into this year.
I feel like the main thing I learned from that class is just to be present in like the moment and to just enjoy it, especially when we're at state finals. I mean, whenever you go down to the Gamebridge, you never really know if you can ever go back there, regardless of what you think of like your potential for next year. But I would just say really enjoy the moment and just enjoy the people around you and like the memories that you have, because that's what you're really going to remember whenever high school's over and whenever you have kids, and like whenever you talk about high school, like you just think of the people. You don't think about if you win or you lose, but just to really value the people you're around and just enjoy it.
Good for you. Coach Thornton, I've been itching for this opportunity as a coach who's been around the game for 20 plus years, just as a coach. You're 1-3-1. I just obviously don't give away trade secrets if there's some individual nuance that you run, but where'd you get it? Is this, everything that we do as coaches, we steal. Is this something that you ran as a player or you ran as an assistant coach? Or, it is it's as true as gravity, I suppose, that you're going to have this 1-3-1 with Norwell and you're going to have a postseason run. So talk about your defense.
Yeah, I'm not good enough, smart enough to come up with this stuff, but I will say we have made it our own. But I'm going to give all the credit to Donna Buckley. We watched, a lot of us watched, her continue to be phenomenal teams. But when you look at 2-3 years ago and the run that they had in winning it all, and still admire everything that she does with her kids. But I just was very intrigued because we were running it on makes. Before that, we were running it on makes. It wasn't the same as how we run it now. And then we would play man to man on misses, and it just changed that way. And then we found out that just watching Noblesville play, they're running it all the time, and sometimes it's better to run it on a miss. When teams are coming down in their transition, and you're not going to be able to run your transition. You're not going to be able to run anything that you practice on a daily basis. And I think we're a 3A team with 700 some kids with 3A bodies, and we want to be good, and we want to be disruptive, and we want to be on the attack on both ends. When you look at the complementary part of the 1-3-1 in our dribble drive, we just like how those two things are complementary and how we play, forcing tempo, attack. It's a fun way to play. And I think it forces teams to play a different way. We get to play some teams on our schedule because our AD supports where do you want to go, who do you want to play. For us to achieve the goals we want, to win a state championship or to get there, just to have an opportunity to make a run every year, this is our style. I think it fits the personality of girls like Vanessa very well. She obviously is at the top of that. Very, very difficult job. And we've kind of made it our own. We found this year, Danny, that we've had to make several adjustments as teams go against it, and we've played them multiple times. We've had to adapt to things, and it's been good. That's been the fun part of it, is making it our own. And yeah, I've got Donna's notes and everything, and those are all great, and I still refer to those from time to time. But then you have the things that make it Norwell's 1-3-1, and then I'll have even boys high school coaches who might have daughters that we play against, talking to me about, hey, I want to talk to you about your 1-3-1. And it's like, absolutely, and if they choose to do it, it'll become their own. And you know how that is, in coaching, you take what you like from other people, and eventually it becomes your own. And that's what we've tried to do here. And this is year 3 of running it the way we've tried to just go all in on it. And obviously there's been scout specific nights that we haven't done it. Last year against Columbia City, when we went on the road and got them, we didn't play it until the very end. We were all man to man. We just didn't feel like, after they torched us the year before, you're going, that didn't feel very good. So we're married to it to a large extent, but we also are going to do what's best to put our kids in a position to win the game.
Well, and that's, you mentioned the dribble drive too, and transitioning to that. I mean, I compliment you on making it your own, but the dribble drive even looks a little bit different. You've kind of nuanced it a little bit this year to kind of fit. There's not that first attack isn't really kind of a two gap. It's almost like a handoff at the very beginning now. And so you've changed things based on your team. And it's just, I just compliment you. It's just the mark of a great coach. You'll like this actually. On Sunday, Eric, I was at a 5th grade practice and they were like, well, we're not remembering plays or whatever. And, the coach has me there and they wanted something that provided freedom and read and react where they could teach the kids their system. Right. So we put in the basics of dribble drive. And at the end of practice, I actually said to him, I said, listen, everything I get from watching other coaches, from watching TV and whatever. I'm not going to coaches clinics necessarily for dribble drive. I actually told those kids, all of them, go watch Eric Thornton and Norwell's dribble drive. It's fantastic. Last year with Kennedy and McKenzie and Vanessa, you guys are really, really hard to guard. Talk about that. How did you acquire that? Why is that your system? What do you like about that?
Well, it goes back to when we lost Miss Basketball, Jessica Rupright. We're running high-low stuff, and we're running pick and roll, pick and pop. And we're trying to, go through her, which we needed to. And then the year after that, we just talked to staff. We have to find a different way to play. And, that was the big thing with Derrick Rose and, watching those guys play. And, obviously that was the old dribble drive, and that you have to adapt with that just like everything else. And, I got to give a lot of credit to Keith Freeman, who's a good friend of mine. And, Keith,
I talked to him yesterday.
A long time. And Keith still, sends me texts, congratulations. He came last spring and, did a free clinic. He was in the area and did a free clinic for our coaching staff. Vanessa was there. We threw 5 kids out there, and he was going through some stuff that they're running at New Mexico right now. He's an assistant there. And so some of the things that you'll see us do now, a lot of the dribble post stuff and that's been a big change for us, especially this year. We started doing that last year, but Vanessa's so good at it. We'd be silly not to have her get, if she can't get to the rim, I want to find a way to keep playing. And I think that's the main thing, is playing off of 2 feet, find a way to keep playing. And, all of his terminology and how structured Keith is, on everything, more structured than I want to be. I can tell you that. But I owe a lot of credit to Keith and also Steve Brooks. And those guys are dear friends of mine. And I will steal anything I can from all the wisdom that those guys have. So, we've tried to do it as well as we can do it. We teach it all through our system as well. Our travel teams, you look down at our 4th and 5th graders and you're going to see some dribble drive concepts there. Vanessa's little sister in our 6th grade class. And they just come up and I don't want to force that on our youth coaches, but it's something that eventually, if they don't do it right away, eventually you're going to see it on a dribble drive, because it's what they want to do. And it's a fun way to play. Like you said, I think it's great for player development. Yeah. I think there's no setup. You're always in attack. We can always find a way to keep playing. And against the really, really good teams, they're going to take away your initial attack, and you have to find a way to score against those high quality teams.
Yeah, it is very special. I have one more before I throw it back to Hank. So, and just kind of spinning it forward to this weekend, okay? So I turn on a Delta film. I think it was the regional game that they had, and I see a 1-3-1. And so Vanessa, I mean, I don't know if that, I guess my sample size isn't large enough to tell you that if Delta is an Eric Thornton, Donna Buckley style 1-3-1 team, but you're going to see it. I mean, running 1-3-1 and playing against 1-3-1, I mean, it's got to help, right? You walk into the first practice in scout, it's got to help you, right, Vanessa?
I mean, it's helped a little bit, but I just found it interesting just looking at some of their film too, that the way they run their 13 or their 1-3-1 is very different compared to ours. I mean, theirs is kind of, they don't play as high, they don't play as wide as we do. It's just a different concept. And it's kind of nice for us running our 1-3-1 and looking at ours to kind of see how they set it up and just now, like, hey, they don't do what we do. Just kind of find some advantages with that. So that's definitely helped.
One last question from me. Macy's soft rank, Eric and Vanessa, both of you guys, just tell me about her journey and how you've seen that kid blossom into, being your second leading scorer and such a key piece of that offense this year.
Yeah, Vanessa, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I'm beyond proud of Macy. I mean, a lot of people were not aware of who she even was in the basketball world. I mean, she's a very athletic player in general, but I'm just so happy that she just found her way just to keep playing. She wasn't really sure of what this year's supposed to look like, since obviously she was on JV the past 2 years, but she's done a great job just letting the game come to her and just playing with a lot of confidence, and not just on offense, but also defense too, just using her length and just really getting those passing lanes and just getting after it. And she is such a well-rounded player, and I'm just so proud of the way she's progressed this year.
Yeah, actually, she played on our freshman team her freshman year, and I remember meeting with her parents several years ago. I don't even know if Macy knows this, but Macy was on the fence, a few years ago if she was going to continue with basketball, and didn't play a whole lot in middle school. And I remember going over to her parents' house and meeting for 2 hours, saying, "Hey, she's going to be something special, and we need her." You could see it; it was there. She just needed the opportunity and continue to grow and mature, and she'd be good at any sport. She's one of those kids that could just be one of the best players. The big thing for us was, again, this summer, was huge for us with what we lost. Losing 80% of our offensive average was. That's not fun, but you knew what we had behind that group. And Macy was one of those kids that just has kind of come up through the system and has just a natural, quick release, super quick, and just nice fundamental shot. She's got some bounce to her. And she's just a kid. I remember a game this summer at team camp. I think she went 9 for 9 from threes. And it's like, we probably need to find a pretty big role for, her. And, she's not just a three-point shooter. A lot of deflection. She's kind of sneaky long in our 1-3-1. We try to play in the direct passing lane in our 1-3-1, and direct passes are going to beat us in that, and it's going to get wide open shots. And when we give those up, it's not a good feeling. But when you have Macy protecting that sideline from the top to the bottom there on that wing, not a lot gets past her, and she covers a lot of ground and gets a lot of touches. And just like Vanessa at the top, from going from side to side up top, Macy's the same type of kid, except she's doing it, along the sideline. And so she gets it. She loves it. She's all in now with basketball, and I can't imagine not having her on this team. It's been a special year to see. And again, that's the fun part of this. We lose all these kids, but we're not done yet, because you have kids like Vanessa and Macy and all these other kids who are ready for their turn.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk with us. Best of luck on Saturday, and we might be seeing you here, I guess, in like a week from now.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.
All right, Danny, we're going to bounce from the 3A North down to the 3A South now and bring on friend of the show, Lisa Finn, because you, in the midst of talking trash in the chat, now we're behind schedule, Danny. So thank you for that. Hi, Lisa. How are you? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you. So I'll just start broadly. I guess just what has been clicking for this group, especially over the past few weeks? It seems like your game has just been elevated.
Yeah, I think it's just, number one, as coaches, we've been selling this or trying to sell this to the girls from day one in June. This is a real possibility for you guys. If you can put your mind to it, you can, buy into what we're trying to do. Obviously building the schedule that we have. My husband tells me I'm crazy every single year. Why are you playing all these teams? And really just getting the girls to understand, it doesn't take massive things. It's doing all the little things and doing them consistently well. And I think that's what we struggled with a little bit at the beginning of the season, and kind of, up and down a little bit in consistency. But, they don't get too high, too low. And I think that's a good thing, because I think they just go into the game let's just play. And it's worked out for us.
You mentioned the scheduling. When you were building that schedule, was there hesitancy? Did you think of easing up at all with this group just to give them a chance to get their legs under them, or is it just like trial by fire? Let's figure this out on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of just built like, okay, if we want to be the best and compete with the best, we got to play the best. And, obviously we don't have to go that far in central Indiana to do that. And then, obviously like dropping to 3A this year, I think, by that point, once we knew how that was going to lay out, is really kind of too late to change a lot anyway. But I don't see us changing anything. And I think, showing our girls like we can compete with a lot of these teams and taking some of those losses early on, it stinks. I mean, I'll be the first one to say that, but I think you'd go through any of those losses to be where we are now, and for that experience along the way, I think is important.
I'd like to ask about Abby Beasley to start, just because I covered that kid during soccer. And I was talking to Dan Wagner too, because one of his top players is also a soccer player, Olivia Berzai. It just seems like those soccer kids are built differently in terms of their athleticism, the leadership they provide. How has Abby filled that role for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, this was the first year that she actually got to practice on day one of practice. Usually, we're dragging our feet getting her there just because they go deeper in the tournament soccer wise. So the conditioning's always there, obviously. And then I just think it translates pretty well to basketball, and the anticipation and the defense. I mean, you see that with Meredith Tipner at Noblesville, right, too. So I think it just translates really well to her defense. And she's just a born leader, and she is a complete, like, glass half full kind of kid. Always everything positive with her, and, just a huge piece to our team. And she's been really, until this year with Caroline and Maddy as freshmen, she's the only person that I've had for 4 years that played. I mean, she's played and started for 4 years for me. So, she's just a huge, huge piece to the puzzle for us.
Lisa, thanks for coming back on. Congratulations, by the way. I'm rooting for
Thank you.
I've got one question on either side of the ball. I mean, I want to start on the defensive side. It just seems like, I don't want to call you or pigeonhole you as a defensive-minded coach, but you only allow 8 field goals against Northview in the regional final. Like 8 field goals. You mentioned Meredith Tipner. Like Meredith gets 8 field goals in the first quarter. Like, you guys are guarding. I mean, and you're mixing it up. I mean, you're pressing a little bit. Some of it's in man-to-man. Some of it's 2-3. Just talk about your defensive identity and what you've done to just get your kids to just sit down and guard people. You're going to be in every game if you're holding people. I don't know what the statistics are, but I mean, I don't think anybody's gotten over 40 except 1 or 2 teams in the last 10 games against you.
Yeah, I think just to focus on, defense is something everyone can do with, like using angles, obviously some athleticism, but I think just really like getting everybody to buy in that we can turn the defense into offense. Shots aren't falling sometimes, you're inconsistent on offense, or they pack it in a zone, which is not, tends to be our nemesis. I think you can always play defense. And I just kind of preach to the girls, like, if we can stay in the stance for 20 to 30 seconds, that's all we need, and really like just attacking. And nobody, I mean, as a point guard, like nobody wants to handle the ball against the pressure. Some are better than others, but at the end of the day, you don't want to handle the ball against pressure if you don't have to. So I think we've just kind of taken that mindset, and they've just really kind of owned it, which is really awesome to see.
Yeah, and you and I have had a couple of conversations. I mean, I think you've always been pretty pleased with where your defensive, identity has been with the Irish this year, but and I don't want to say that you've questioned it or I've questioned it, but one of the questions that's been there is, can you all score enough? And then something happened. I mean, and I don't know what it was, if it was the emergence of somebody that you want to talk about, did you change scheme? But you have gotten to the point now where you are playing the offensive end with some proficiency too. And now you can outscore somebody too. I mean, you have to feel really good about your team scoring the ball. What's that attributed to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just getting them to understand, like, there's always going to be the leading scorer, right? There's always going to be the offensive person that you're leaning on to do a majority of the scoring, or a couple people. But I think too, like, sometimes it's just play basketball and take what the defense gives you, and I mean, we joke with Abby, after that 3 she took. I mean, I I was already standing, so I couldn't fall off my chair. But I was shocked that she took that shot, and not because I don't tell her not to shoot that, but like she just kind of knows like where she stands in the scheme of our offense, and most of our girls do. But I'm like, you know, it's going to take all of us, and you know, and doing the things that you do best and taking what the defense gives you. And I honestly think we were a little hesitant. A lot of them were a little hesitant at the beginning of the year. You know, we have Jada, who's a really good scorer. Tiana kind of was scoring a lot for us early, and then I think then they all become hesitant, like we can't score. And I'm like, it's going to take all of you, you know. And I think getting Caroline Wiggins a little more confidence, and honestly, if you play defense, you only need to hit layups, and that's really kind of like what we've, you know, I think it's just been like a 1-2 punch. Take away Jada, we bring somebody else in, and you don't have to score double digits. Like just hit the shots that you get that you can hit consistently, and it will help us.
You mentioned some of those other scorers, and I was looking back just at the preseason questionnaire and all that, and obviously following you guys through the year. But I mean, Caroline Wiggins, you thought that she had the potential to be a starter for you guys, and not only is she starting for you, she's one of your leading scorers. I mean, how has that kid fit in with you guys, and what have you seen from her now in year one?
Yeah, I mean, her ceiling is so high, you know. I mean, I think she's obviously being a freshman, like the experience is only going to be you know, make her a better player as she goes. And I think the beautiful thing about her is like she's got some physical size, so she usually takes that post player or like that, you know, height from the other team, and that's who's guarding her. But she's also a really good shooter from the outside. So you know, I think she's always been a guard probably up to this point, and kind of just had her way up and down the floor with people. So I think it's taken a little bit of time for her to adjust to, like, you're not going coast to coast against a lot of these teams that we play. But she's going to be, I mean, if she continues to work the way that she has, and she's just kind of got that bug about her anyway, like she wants to work, she wants to be in the gym, like she's only going to get better. And you know, she might get a little bit bigger too. Definitely will hit the weight room, you know, more consistently. And so she's been a huge asset to us, you know, and having some physical size. Cause I mean, take her out of the equation. We have Tatum Triggs, who's, you know, a decent size, you know, height wise, and can play in the post, but we don't really have a lot of height. So it's been helpful to have her physical presence inside too. And she can guard a post, which is good.
One more question before we let you go, Lisa. Looking now at Roncalli, they're a team that seemed like late in the year they were kind of struggling offensively. Now suddenly they've kind of started to find their way a little bit. They're getting some shots to fall. Leffler's been playing really well. What do you see from Roncalli as you watch them on film?
Gosh, I see they shoot a lot of threes. You know, we're really going to have to contest the 3-point shot. And I just like the grit about them. I like how defensively they, you know, I kind of see them very similar to us. They just get down and defend people. So I'm excited about that matchup. We haven't played them in a few years, which I think will be, you know, kind of cool. But you know, I think it's just going to be, I think it's going to be a defensive grind between the two of us. But, you know, obviously they've got some really, really big pieces. And they, you know, they've got a lot of offense that comes from a lot of different places. So I think it'll be, you know, it'll be a good test for us for sure.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, best of luck to you this weekend. I know that's like one of the games Danny and I are both most looking forward to this weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun. Congratulations on everything so far, and hopefully we'll be talking again here soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
Take care,
Hey,
Lisa. Lisa Finn, head coach at Cathedral.
Did you hear the grit thing? Like that's, I mean, when we were talking about, when we had Roscoe and Cerny on, that's what we were talking about, like how gritty and tough they are. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the fascinating thing. If you guys are going to be at the Cathedral-Roncalli game, I mean, if you date back to the Heritage Christian game, that Roncalli played at Heritage Christian, it was Roscoe on Jocelyn Marshall and it was Cerny on Riley Johnson, and it was predominantly man, and they got into him and played it in the half court the whole time. I think they're going to do the same thing with Cathedral, with Tiana and Jada, and I think it's going to be a fascinating game, and I can't wait to see it.
All right, that was Lisa Finn, head coach of Cathedral. Danny, let's talk. Danny and Court, let's talk about that matchup a little bit. The Roncalli Cathedral one. I was just actually, as I got on air again, looking at that matchup, trying to make a pick on it, and I can't decipher it one way or the other. I mean, they're both playing so well right now. The offenses, like Lisa talked about, they're finally starting to click for both sides. I mean, it feels like such an even matchup. I can't really get a read one way or the other. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, I think it's really cool that that two Indianapolis schools that have been tied together in a lot of different sports is one of them is going to be playing in the semi-state championship. You know, from a Roncalli perspective, when we had Brenna and Sarah on, you know, we talked about how gritty they were on the defensive side.
Mm-hmm.
When Roncalli played Heritage Christian earlier in the year, and I think I said this in the Class A 2A. I apologize if this is redundant. You noticed a different outfit, so I've slept since the last time we talked about it. But
found Courtney too.
Like Roscoe guarded Jocelyn Marshall, and Cerny guarded Riley Johnson, and Roncalli's predominantly a man-to-man team. I mean, are they going to give Roscoe to Tiana, and are they going to give Cerny to Jada and guard a man-to-man? I think is interesting. So I think the what to watch is going to be how Cathedral utilizes the different matchups that they like. Do they end up going away from maybe Guy and Jada into Caroline Wiggins? Is this like the 20-10 game that's coming up for Caroline? I know you had mentioned her, so I think that's my what to watch. But Hank, you've written about it, you've talked about it. I know you talked about it on air and off air. These are two teams that really have kind of found themselves offensively.
Yeah,
and so the reason why I look at the defensive matchups is because there's going to be a matchup in this game, whether it's Roncalli against Lisa Finn's multiple zones or if they go man. You have really good defenders in this game, and I'm stumbling through this. I mean, like,
no, you're nailing it.
You have like Abby Beasley, Caroline Wiggins, Sarah Roscoe, Brenna Cerny. Like, these are all great individual defenders, and so I think it's going to be tough to score the ball. And so if this is two teams that is in fact high trajectory teams that are finding themselves on the offensive end, maybe whoever does it first or who can do it for a longer period of time against really good set defenses might be the key and might be the what to watch.
I wrote about this in the story leading into the week. I'm really curious to see the role that Lydia Staley plays for Roncalli. Right. She's got some height. The girls talked last or a couple weeks ago, Brenna and Sarah, just about how she's kind of finding her confidence a little bit. She's a volleyball kid by nature, obviously, but she's finding a way as a basketball player too, and is kind of stayed the course. I'm curious to see what kind of role she plays, because if they can get her going and get a big night for her, suddenly think Roncalli looks a lot even more formidable when you pair her with Leffler and Roscoe and Cerny and all the other pieces that they have. It's just really interesting. But then on the other side, it's like Cathedral. It's like every time I doubt them even just a little bit, like against Bishop Chatard twice now. They come out and they surprise you, and they find somebody to step up, be it Jada Wilson. Well, you take away Jada Wilson, then Caroline Wiggins steps up. Beasley, as we've talked about a lot, is kind of like that steadying force for them. So just so many different pieces that Cathedral can beat you with too. And we'll save the pick, obviously, for the pick show, but I'm fascinated to see how that thing unfolds.
Well, Lisa said something really smart in her interview too. She talked about how at the beginning of the season, she had projected this for the team. In other words, that she had kind of said, hey, if we do this and if we do this and if we do this, we're going to find ourselves in the third weekend with an opportunity to get to Gainbridge Fieldhouse and win a state championship. I almost got the sense in listening to Lisa that she just recently got her team to believe that. And maybe there's a direct relationship between Lisa's ability to get her team to believe that and how well they are playing right now. And so I think Roncalli has been there, and talking to Sarah and Brenna, I think that they've had these goals within Roncalli's locker room, but now Cathedral's there too. You have two very confident outfits that are both trending upwards. Great game, obviously just for local interest, but also just a great game in a vacuum too.
One other thing too that I probably won't have time to get to in the pick show, because we got a pretty loaded lineup for that, but the momentum factor. Roncalli's coming off an upset of Danville. I mean, they just took out a potential state contender there, and I think the 8th ranked team in the state. So they're riding the high of the momentum. Cathedral on the other side, that's not to discount their win by any means. They had to pull out a good win over Northview, but I think just in terms of momentum, I feel like there's a lot to be drawn from beating a team like Danville if you're Roncalli. So I'm really interested, but I'm not sure that Roncalli will be able to use the nobody's believing in us line. I don't think Cathedral will be either, because honestly, I think it's going to go split when we come time to make our picks.
Yeah, and I also want to double back on that Staley point too. Again, I don't want to be too choppy, but I can't. You mentioned Caroline Wiggins. I think you mentioned her in the interview. I'll kind of bring it back to that now and tie it to Lydia Staley. I had a conversation with Lisa Finn at the Charlie Hughes event, like a long time ago. This is June, right? So this is now 8 months ago. And I think she said really casually, like, Danny, I think Caroline Wiggins can average a double-double for us this year. And I was like, wow, like that's a lot to put on a kid that's who hasn't played a minute of varsity basketball to that point. She's not averaging a double-double, but she's pretty darn close. And you had mentioned her numbers with the double-double in the last round. She's really starting to come into her own. So if the Lydia Staley thing is true, it's not going to be because of the absence of somebody who can guard her, right? Like Caroline can match on Lydia Staley. I think that will be an interesting matchup to see who wins the glass, who takes care of the ball, who finishes their layups, who makes their free throws. Like we're getting not deep. I mean, I led with the Roscoe Tiana matchup and the Cerny Jada matchup if we do in fact get it. But you're right. I mean, that Staley Wiggins matchup to me could be the differentiating factor in the game, and that's experience versus inexperience, talent on talent, strength on strength. So that one's fascinating too.
I'm really excited to see how that one goes. We're going to be joined here in just a minute by Jamaya Thomas and Stephen Thomas from Lawrence North. We're waiting on Stephen here to sign on. So in the meantime, I'm going to kill some time by playing some highlights from Lawrence North win over Pendleton Heights in the regional. We're going to end it there with a Jamaya Thomas highlight because that seems to set up perfectly for our next two guests who are on the line now. Jamaya Thomas and Stephen Thomas of Lawrence North talking with us ahead of Saturday's semi-state games against, who do you guys play? Gibson Southern in the second game down there at Southport. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. Jamaya, how are things?
Things are good.
That's good. So I will start the conversation with this, Jamaya. Just talk to us about what it was like guarding Ada Hupp for last week for the stretches that you were able to play in between foul trouble, I guess, and then what your thoughts are going into this weekend against Paige Schnaus.
Guarding Ada was really difficult, especially when I got in foul trouble. I couldn't be as aggressive as I wanted to, but my teammate Shia Teague helped me with that a lot, so I'm really grateful for her. But yeah, she's a tough matchup. She hit that jump shot, and yeah, and preparing for Paige is kind of going to be the same thing. She's a high-level post player too, so we're just getting prepared for that this week.
Stephen, what have you seen from Jamaya? Let's just stay with her. I mean, I remember us talking about her when you guys were last playing at a semi-state. You told me about the sophomore you had who was pretty special, and here we are 3 years later and back in the same spot.
As always, Jamaya has my back, and so I made that. I talked about her in that high stakes back then as a sophomore, and we always knew Jamaya was going to be very, very special, even as a freshman and within her growth within our feeder program. But she continues to always have my back, and I'm so thankful for Jamaya.
Stephen, I bet you were happy to be at practice this week.
I tell them, man, it's a privilege. You know, we talked about it after the sectional going into the regional, like, you know, that Monday, hey, man, kids are waking up, ladies are waking up, and they just have school. So appreciate and the journey, the process, the opportunity that's in front of you, and let's dive head first into chopping wood. And yes, again, another week to prepare for a really good team in Gibson Southern, and thankful for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Unclear if you heard my comments before when kind of breaking down in the regional recap. I kind of said, in paraphrasing, and I'll give you the short dime store version of it, but you know, it just seems like you're the coach that just allows kids to make plays. It's not always about, you know, an intricate scheme or, you know, some sort of adjustment. It's more of just like giving your opportunities to kids with the ball to make plays. I thought Kiki Butler and Kaya Hurt, particularly in the last 10 minutes of that basketball game, just made plays. Like there was the 4-point play by Kaya. There was the corner 3 by Kiki. Kiki hit a couple pull-ups. I know there was the 5-foot little runner that Kaya had hit too. Talk me through that. What I saw with the game flow, like, was that the plan all along to just say, hey, listen, when we get the lead, we're going to try to pull them out and just kind of open up the floor, see if we can get Kiki and Kaya maybe downhill. That's what I saw. Tell me what it was like in the game.
Yeah, it's just, I have full trust in a 4-year varsity high-level point guard in Kaya Hurt, and then her leadership that's impacted, and Kiki and her's relationship. But then, you know, you throw Jamaya's voice into all of that, and Naja, and all the playmakers that we have. And I've always promised myself as a player and as a coach, as a point guard myself, I just wanted my teammates to be themselves, right, and to star in their roles and star in their best. And so as a coach, like I allow that same freedom, and those ladies have earned it, right? Like they chop wood, and we laugh and talk about that now as kind of the slogan of the postseason. But you know, I put them through it. Jamaya would agree. You know, they crash out at times, but we grind, and I do that for a purpose in our schedule and everything, so that, you know, when these high stake things happen or these situations come down, you're seasoned and you're battle tested. And so it's never a panic situation. It's just about making plays when those opportunities come, and you either make those plays or you don't make those plays. And fortunately for us, the ball is bounced that we're continue to be able to make those plays.
It's not a panic situation. It's a comment that I think bears worth repeating. You didn't panic in that game. Jamaya had already mentioned her foul trouble, okay? And I led with Kiki and Kaya. But, man, Ashaya Teague off the bench in foul trouble I thought was enormous. Brooklyn Roberts missed her first 2 threes, and the natural tendency was to be like, well, you know, after the 3 fourth-quarter threes that she hit against Lawrence Central, water's finding its level, and she goes on and makes like 3 huge plays in the second half. Here comes Jada Wheat, who I see play at 6 o'clock and not 7:30. Like, I mean, there's no level of panic. Your trust in just putting the next man up, I thought, was remarkable last weekend. Talk about, and it doesn't need to be limited to those 3 players, but Jada played, Ashaya played big time minutes. Brooklyn Roberts continues to. How are you getting such good role player production through this run, Stephen?
They're bought into each other. I mean, that's a family in that locker room, led by this one that's right here in front of you with the voice of in the locker room, in the hallways, and the bus, wherever it's at. Jamaya's been a phenomenal leader, whereas, you know, Kaya's more quiet as a senior. But then you have Wilma Gardner and Ava Cousin, who Ava came in, made some off of the stat sheet plays effort-wise that bought us a bunch of time. Jada Wheat, like you said, but we've just got a bunch of girls that have committed to each other and to the next man up. And when it's my time to step up for my sister, it's my time to step up. So when you have that naturally, organically, because they love each other, special things then formulate, right? And that's what you get to see with this special group.
Jamaya, I've heard Coach Thomas talk a lot about chopping wood. So I have a question. Have you guys read Chop Wood, Carry Water as a team? that a team book? Or do you know it's a book?
I didn't even know that was a book. I don't think we read it.
Okay, well,
Courtney, if I were to throw that into our practice plans and things like that, extra homework of reading, they would definitely they'd come
hey,
get.
maybe the best chapter, Coach. The best chapter, they got to read it this week, and that's going to be the X Factor.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course. Jamaya, I love your sweatshirt. As I was sitting here looking at you wearing the W orange, I just want to pick your brain on what is it like being a senior girls basketball player in this day and age where women's basketball is on the rise? How has that, maybe from the time when you started basketball to where it's at now, like what shift have you seen, and how does that make you feel when you think about even the future for you?
It's just really amazing because people are just paying more attention to like girls basketball in general, not even just at the collegiate or professional level. It's just like more people are coming out. Like that regional game, I've never seen so many people just there to watch girls basketball. Like it's on the rise, and people are starting now to just understand like we can play too, and it's entertaining too. So that's just really nice, especially being a senior and going into a semi-state, just seeing like everybody just come out and wanting to witness history. It's just a really good feeling.
I love it. One other question for you, and then we'll kick it to Hank. But I want to know, so a lot of times there's different players that we like to role model as a player we look up to, and Coach has mentioned that you're a great leader. Like where have you learned how to be a great leader? Has there been somebody in your life? Has there been coaches, or is it just something that you're just born a leader?
I just try to be a leader because I don't want my season to end. I want to do everything to keep this going as long as it can. I want to bring all the girls in. I want to reel everyone in so everybody can buy into what we're trying to do, so we can have practice again and again and again. And I want everybody on the same page, and I just care for all my teammates.
Let's spin things ahead now to Gibson Southern. I'll ask the broad question first before we start drilling into some, specific matchup things. But Jamaya, you first. What jumps out to you when you see Gibson Southern play, particularly over these past couple weeks?
Mainly their two star players, Gabby and Paige. They're really good dynamic players. They've been playing like huge roles for their teams all season, and we just have to try to dive in and slow them down.
Stephen, I'll ask that also to you. I guess just are they comparable to teams that you guys have faced? Obviously, you saw them last year, but are they comparable to teams that you've seen this year?
Absolutely. Like I said, with the gauntlet of a schedule that I've put us through, and again, I continue to I kept myself up at nights questioning what I was doing in my young career, but it's paid off. But yeah, there's players in particular, right? We've said, Jamaya's had to battle great post players throughout the season. We've had to battle amazing guards throughout this season. So that combination of those two, but then for us is we've highlighted our bench and the contribution that's played such a huge role for us. So we're not naive. We know that they have other senior playmakers that are gonna also not want their senior season to end. And they're coached by a very, very good coach. And we played them in the opportunity in the Evansville North tournament. That's really well done last year and compete. And so. What you've got with your hands full, with Paige and Gabby, like you said, but there's no disrespect to that roster. They're here for a reason. They've made plays, and have won games and have gone through, the same chopping of wood in their own sense of however they coin it. So for us, it's a respect and putting that into execution and into preparation.
That game last year, by the way, ended on a buzzer beater. Kaya Hurt stepped up and just drilled the 3-pointer. That was something else.
Absolutely. Another one of those kind of like, Danny was saying, you learn so quick early. It's, in that situation, it's like, do you call timeout? Do you not call timeout? I remember, that was the conversation. It's like, you put the ball in your playmakers' hands and you allow them to play. And, Gabby and Paige are going to do the same thing on Saturday. And that's what we're getting geared up. But the supporting cast is always on the radar.
Jamaya, how much fun, I guess, just as a competitor, how much fun has it been going Lawrence Central, then you play Pendleton Heights at the big time post, now you're getting ready for Gibson Southern, another big time post. I mean, this has got to be, this has just got to be like a blast for you, right? Like a fun way to cap off a senior year.
Yeah, because I haven't been back. I haven't been on the stage since I was a sophomore. So it's just really like these past 2 weeks have been like, I've been just happy. And yeah, it's just been good to get back on the stage.
Is there experience that you draw from that run you guys made your sophomore year? Like, are there things that you think back on, memories, experiences, things like that to help you as you go into this week?
Yeah, I just think back on just how close all the games were, and just how you're not just like in the postseason, you're not just going to blow anybody out. Like, everybody is good. Everybody got here for a reason. So you just have to weather the storm in every single game. You just have to fight.
Steven, can you see that too behind the scenes at practice, just with kids, and then also during the games, obviously?
My voice is trapped on a sideline. And in those games, it's players, right? And these girls have earned their stripes. And with Jamaya and Kaya and Kiki, who was also, a freshman and around soaking those things in, Kalia Bentley, we have such a wonderful feeder program with Lawrence North, and my coaches do such a phenomenal job in supporting my crazy self and getting these kids in the gym all the time. That Brooklyn Roberts was also, an 8th grader sitting behind the bench. So it's, you soak it in, and then you're able to, when it's your opportunity. I'm sure like Jamaya, she remembers the conversations Monica Williams and Lanaya Early as seniors had, and her own sister and Michaela Washington Cobb. Like, those girls still text. Jamaya and Kai are still connected to them. They still check in. Kamara Mills, the community that we have, and that's been one of the best things that I've always loved through being an assistant, a JV coach, is in this program. And from Gift to the other coaches, they established that this is a family, and you're always a Wildcat. So being able to have those resources for your kids to tap into and remember those, and then right now having Jamaya and Kaya and our seniors lead that charge with the feeling of what it feels like to continue to cut down those nets and play games, deep into February and the March. That goes so much farther than I can on the court and in those huddles and the things that they talk about and their leadership. So very thankful.
We've been asking other coaches, and I'm curious to hear how you're approaching it, just the prep side, where theoretically you could be preparing for 3, you could be obviously focusing on just the one. How are you approaching that as a coach? Do you keep it in-house? What do you do?
As funny and just kind of a little segment into my girl, they love to eat, so so one of the things is you can only finish what's on your plate, right? Like, what you can't go get seconds and thirds while you still have we're gonna chop wood on what's right in front of us, and just to, dive into one game at a time. We know we know what having games in the schedule that you look forward and overlook somebody and those battle tested things. So again, the experience is been the best part with this leadership. But absolutely, you take it one game at a time, and you never know in trying to predict games who's going to beat who and where's everybody going to be at. You have to make sure that you're prepared to be in that moment and excel in that moment. So that's our main focus, and it's Gibson Southern at 12 o'clock at Southport. And then we'll dive into whatever comes out of the other games, and continue to rely on leadership in that locker room.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Steven and Jamaya, for joining us. It was great talking with you guys, and best of luck to you all on Saturday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yep, thank you.
Jamaya and Stephen Thomas of Lawrence North with us here on the scores table. Danny, your interview wrap, and then Courtney will throw to you, and then I'll move us along.
I got a couple of things. What you said, providing continuity to Jamaya's run, I think is really interesting. She's had to, battle the front line of Lawrence Central, like you had mentioned. Obviously, there's Hupfer, and now it's Paige Schnaus again. Foul trouble has been a big deal with Jamaya Thomas. And, I don't know. She'll probably listen to these comments. I mean, they can get a bucket. They can get a bucket with Kiki Butler. They can get a bucket with Kaya Hurt. They can get a bucket on turning them over, role play production. There's a lot of different ways they can get a bucket. You can't get a third foul back. I mean, Jamaya has to understand, and all of those Lawrence Central kids, Kaya got in foul trouble too. I mean, they've got to understand that they have to be able to understand the value of a third foul versus 2 points. Because if you have a 4-minute stretch where you have to sit because of foul trouble, the teams are better. The coaching is better. The kids are more explosive as you get later and further right in a tournament. And if you have a 4-minute stretch where you got to sit out, the game could end. But I do think that there is a what to watch here. And I'll transition it to this before we hear Courtney's thoughts. Gibson Southern attacked Jerry Hickey's Floyd Central zone, which Jerry was on here talking about the different things that he used to do at Salem and how he's kind of changed it with what he's doing at Floyd Central. But that's a very difficult zone to attack. And I thought Kyle Brasher and the rest of Gibson Southern was really comfortable against that zone. They were found a way to create driving lanes in it. They found a way to beat it up the floor. They found a way to space in it. And if Lawrence North does play, because they do run a variation of that stacked kind of 1-1-3 zone that's really wide, I think the experience and the success that Gibson Southern had against Floyd Central is the key to the game. Now, I say that totally understanding that Stephen also knows that. And he had a ton of success in running man-to-man against Pendleton Heights. So Gibson now doesn't know how this is going to play out. They don't know what Stephen's going to play defensively. That could level the playing field a little bit. But if he does settle on that zone, Gibson's had some success. And I think that's the one key to watch.
I always love listening to Coach Thomas. He has such a unique coaching voice. Just, pumps confidence out. And I loved when he said, like, his voice gets trapped on the sideline and it's the players have to make plays. I think as well as Jamaya's leadership and hearing her voice and just through the screen and just being a part of this interview with those two, like the Lawrence North energy, there's no doubt that positivity and that energy and the culture that they have. And really he talked about how, tough their schedule has been, and you have to prepare so you don't have to get ready. And like they've been getting ready all season for this run. And so I really enjoyed the interview and the energy that Lawrence North has, and it's going to be exciting to watch them take that energy to the court.
That energy is a reflection of Stephen. Like that's the thing that stood out to me ever since he took over. Was it 4 years ago now at this point? But just he's so enthusiastic on the sidelines, and not unlike a lot of coaches, it just you can see the team kind of feed off that, and it's a reflection of that, and it's really cool. And I think it says a lot, different styles for different coaches, but with that group in particular, it suits them very well.
I also wanted to mention before we pivot to HSE, Lauren Adamson, I think is the name. Okay. She got the Elise Coleman assignment, and she's a kid who is not the primary, even secondary option offensively for Gibson Southern, but plays a huge role. If Gibson Southern decides to check Lawrence North man, Lauren Adamson is going to get either Kiki Butler or Kaya Hurt coming off of a very difficult assignment to Elise Coleman, and she made things very difficult. She is a huge part of this run. But to me, Saturday, from a player perspective, settles in on Gabby Spink. It's so basic to say that it goes on the best player, but through all of this role play production talk, it's still the Stars. That it's still the Stars name on the marquee. And I pause, not for effect. I pause to kind of think about it. I think I said something to you off air, Hank, about it. Of the 8 games in 4A that were played last weekend in the regional round, of those 8 games, I'm not sure that Gabby Spink didn't have the singular best game out of any kid that played. And that's with Maya Makaluski having like 20 first half points against Homestead. Like, well, I mean, Maya was That's fantastic. They're not going to get beat if she does that. But Gabby was fantastic, wasn't she, Hank? I mean, she was getting downhill. She was making her shots. She had the big moments where she had the beyond half court shot that went in. That kid's dialed in, and she was finishing with both hands. Like, I love where her game is at right now. I know Courtney has some perspective on Gabby because she works with her a little bit, and I know that you had some thoughts too. When I said that to you, I think you guys were in agreement. So before we go to HSE, do you guys see what I see? Like, Gabby is really at another level right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the thing that I've seen transforming Gabby is just her poise on the court. Of truly, I think there's this level of maturity that you hit as a basketball player when you really just detach from the outcome and you really lock into the process, and you truly just want to win, just like Jamaya said in her interview. And it really kicks in a lot of times for seniors during the state tournament runs because they don't want their season to end. But they know that if you attach yourself to the outcome, you're probably going to put too much pressure on yourself. And so you literally got to get into a flow state is what we like to call it. And you just got to be in the present moment. And every possession counts, every meal that you're going to eat, every night you're going to sleep heading up, like everything matters. Every box out and just getting locked in. That's a difference that I've really seen from Gabby, is just locking into that present moment.
And she was due, right? I mean, it was just all tournament. It was somebody different. It was Paige Schnaus, then it was the role players. And it's like, when's Gabby's moment going to come? And it came in regionals, and now it feels like she's got that momentum going. And I'm really fascinated to see how LN guards her and how she matches up with some of those guards. Because it seems like everybody in these specific matchups are playing at an extremely high level. Paige and Jamaya, Gabby, Kiki, Kaya, Brooklyn. I mean, name a name for LN, and they're playing at a high level. Like, it's so fascinating. And this is one of those games where absolutely it's probably going to come down to the role players and which ones step up at what points of the game with that big shot that tilts it. And it's going to be somebody that we probably forgot to mention here or didn't even think to mention here who's going to do it. And they're going to be the heroes that send their team into the state semifinals. We have one last semi-state game to get through, and that is the game up north in Frankfort. That is HSE versus Valparaiso. That is the first semifinal of the day up there. HSE coming in undefeated, 26-0. Valparaiso 19-7. First meeting between them since 2019. HSE picked by the computers as a 16-point favorite. Danny, I'll get your thought on that one, and then we'll pivot to Courtney.
I think two things from a Valpo perspective. I know Courtney will kind of give the perspective from HSE, but from Valpo's perspective, I think what to watch is Lillie Barnes. And that's not how many points does she score and how is she doing on the offensive end. Lillie Barnes is unique as a star because, and we saw this with like Bedford North Lawrence's run en route to the state championship. Like, they protected Chloe Spreen's fouls through that run. And a lot of times they didn't want her totally engaged on the defensive side. Lillie's not like that. Lillie guarded Meredith Tipner when they were in man. She guarded India Hutchinson for the entire basketball game, not once but twice when they played. She's guarded Addi Baxter. She got part of the Bricker assignment. She doesn't, and I'm going to use the word duck. I'm not saying that Chloe ducked, okay? But Barnes is always involved in the central matchup of a basketball game. They're going to play their 1-3-1. Okay, they are. But they're also going to play some man because you can't play one defense against HSE and expect them not to get comfortable in it. Barnes is going to guard Maya. And if I'm wrong on that, that's going to buck the trend that they've done all year. But Barnes on Maya, like, come on with that. Like, how, as a fan, are you just not going to just watch that matchup regardless of the other 8 players on the floor? That's going to be really fascinating. Is because Maya's a load to guard, and not only is Maya a load to guard because she never stops moving on the offensive end, fouls become really big. I mean, that's kind of been a storyline. I think Maya and Meredith Tipner, those two kids particularly, are the two best kids to drawing fouls when you do not have the basketball.
I agree.
And I think Lillie Barnes, if she does it, is going to be so engaged on the defensive side that I think we need to be very careful with not putting her in a situation where she can't be effective on the offensive end. So that's probably one of the reasons why Valpo does it, is the experience that she can fall back on in guarding Tipner and Hutchinson and Baxter and all of these kids. But to see Lillie Barnes chasing Maya around is going to be a little bit different than what we're seeing in other HSE games.
My what to watch for HSE, obviously you got the big three. So Maya, Kayla, KK, and there's no explanation needed there. And so I'm going to go jump straight to, because we've talked about HSE on this podcast, a kid that when I sat in the Marion High School gym last Saturday that stood out to me, that just makes winning plays and hustle plays that you might not see it on a stat sheet. They showed up on a stat sheet, but it's a senior, number 24, Addison Van, is it Hosen?
Van Heusen.
Yeah. So Addison. Okay. So Addison, number 24, she wears a knee brace. In that ball game against Homestead, she had 5 offensive rebounds, 2 defensive rebounds. And there were so many times that when Homestead would go on a run, like she would just get a big board. And that's an extra, that's an extra 5 possessions for HSE. That's an extra shot for Maya, an extra shot, kick out for Kayla, or kick out for KK. Like, that kid is a difference maker. She's a, role player. And we talked about the role players' roles here in the state tournament run. So number 24, I'm giving you your flowers, as Danny likes to say, to Addison. She's a fun kid to watch.
It's going to be very interesting game too. And Valpo it's a pretty young and inexperienced team beyond Lillie. So I'm interested to see how those kids handle it and play on the big stage. They're coming off that big win last weekend over Hammond Central. Gosh, it's going to be such an interesting matchup, but it's another one of those where the defensive matchup is what fascinates me the most, and how they approach things on both sides.
Yeah. And Cadence, and you mentioned the role players, Courtney for HSE. I also want to, you're not in the third weekend unless you're getting role player production. So, Cadence Clark and Cheyenne, and it'll be interesting to see how HSE also guards. We know how they're going to guard. We talked, that was our whole narrative in the regional rap show, was how good of a defensive basketball team that HSE is. But Cheyenne and Cadence are they're going to have to produce. They will, because they have throughout this entire run.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, that does it for our 3A, 4A sectional regional semi-state rap show. I made it all the way up till the end, and then I screwed it up and ruined it. Semi-state 3A, 4A preview show is a wrap now. We will be back on Sunday morning, probably around that 10 a.m. time slot again, to recap everything. Danny was talking about maybe doing his own show. Courtney was thinking of making her own YouTube channel to talk in between games on Saturday. I want no part of either of those things, but I will have coverage from the 4A semi-state championship game in Frankfort, assuming if HSE advances. And then in the morning, I will be out in Logansport for the Sheridan Rensselaer Central game down in 2A. But yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll be talking to you on Sunday. For Danny Riego, Courtney Delks, my name is Brian Haenchen. Have a fun weekend.